I got in trouble and they sent me to Canada because I threatened to kill Shawn Michaels and the entire clique. They hit, you know, I thought that, I thought it was them.
Nonchalant, he just said that.
Like, oh, I meant that shit.
No,
I meant it. Like, but I found out later on it was Paul Bearer who hit my crutches. And I blamed it on Shawn now because they came up to me, hey man, they hit your crutches? What happened? And I was like, man, you too small to be talking to me.
Enzo Amore explains how a fart got him fired from WWE and derailed his NXT career.
I farted in a Dusty Rhodes promo class, to which Dusty Rhodes kicked me out of it, got me fired that night, called up Triple H in the morning and got me rehired. Then I got fined for farting. I got taken off shows, and I think me and Big Cass went on a losing streak for a while in NXT.
How bad was the fart?
It was the loudest fart I've ever ripped in my entire life. Man, I thought that Dusty would think it was funny because Baron Corbin was up there cutting a terrible promo, so I just raised my hand and farted.
This is a hilarious story of Kevin Owens playing with WWE action figures that got him in trouble.
For music is when I used to play with my action figures, I would have the music queued up for the guys' entrances. But for Steve Austin, I felt like the music wasn't enough. I needed like a special effect. So I threw a mug at a wall to do the glass break.
Wow.
But I'm stupid.
Yeah,
First of all, the mug is not glass. It was whatever they're made of. Yeah. I threw that thing as hard as I could at a wall. And it wasn't a brick wall or anything. It was just a regular wall. So it just caved in and stayed there. My dad came home.
Hell of an effect.
I was 17.
John Morrison's story tells us that Vince McMahon loves a good old tan.
Vince was always really big on tan. And there was a while where I was wrestling Sheamus, and I'd come back and he'd be like, God damn it, you look fantastic. And I looked exactly the same, and then I wrestled Truth the next week, and he's like, Morrison, come here. You look like get a tan, God damn it. I can't sell pale.
Andre the Giant is someone you don't want to mess with, but for some reason, somebody at a bar wanted to fight him, and this is what happened according to Kane.
Andre is legendary. He's a very prodigious drinker, right? He could just, it didn't affect him. So, and he was also so big.
Yeah.
So one night he's sitting at the bar and he's having a beer at the bar, and one of the guys was upset with him about something. This was a really big dude, like guy my size. So he walks up to Andre and just sucker punches him right in the side of the head. And
he sucker punched Andre the Giant?
And Andre drank another sip, put the beer down, turned to him and asked if he wanted to fight. Like, no!
Staying with Kane, we have another funny story where Kane and The Undertaker both talk about the time that Vader got arrested when somebody called WWE fake.
He's in jail at Kuwait, and there's no one to work with Undertaker. And that's where they kind of came up with the idea for Kane.
Vader got arrested in Kuwait. So we're in Kuwait, and we're basically doing the equivalent of Good Morning America, whatever. And we're promoting, I'm going to defend the title tonight against Vader. And then the guy asked the question. He just had to ask, well, isn't it fake? Now, on the outside, I look as cool as can be, right? Now, on the inside, I'm like, oh, no. And he grabbed that guy. The guy didn't appreciate getting manhandled like that one bit. All hell's breaking loose, right? Jerry Briscoe, the road agent. Jerry's trying to get me in the car. Leon comes up to him and he goes, oh, what do I do? I was like, dude, you've done it, brother. Way to take up for the business. Car speeds off like a movie. Looking back at Leon.
We're like at the hotel, like the Kuwaiti army's here to arrest my Vader.
Oh, gosh. Oh, God. Before finishing his story at WrestleMania 40, The Undertaker would come out and help Cody, and the two would share an iconic moment at WrestleMania that a lot of people don't know about.
In the moment, I'm laying in the corner, and a blackout on TV isn't always a blackout in the arena. There's kind of your eyes adjust. So I see this man roll in the ring at a speed like a wild animal. Then I see him stand up, then I feel the lights come up, and now the whole world knows he's in there, and they have their moment. And he choke slams The Rock, and kind of as the sheriff of WWE shows up and makes something right. But then no one sees this. He looked over at me, and I think he wanted us to have a moment, but I was still reeling from this whole match. So I'm just kind of in no man's land. But he looked at me and just literally just went. and winked. And as soon as he winked, I kid you not, the lights went out. And I thought, like, he's magical, you know?
This is proof that Scott Hall might be one of the funniest wrestlers of all time.
You know what Scott Hall said to me once? You were at WrestleMania 18.
I was? Yeah, Toronto.
So was I. And it was the night before WrestleMania, and I forget the Marriott or wherever everyone was with, and people were in the bar. And I went with some friends and some cohorts of people that I know from the thing. And he says to me, may he rest in peace, my God, one of the greatest, and a funny guy. Hey, Sasso, you look like the kind of guy who could do cook and eat. I was just like, geez, this dude is awesome.
During an entrance, Big E accidentally hit AJ Lee in the chest, and this is when AJ Lee decided to take advantage of this opportunity and troll Big E.
He almost murdered me. I had to wear a padded bra at all times while wrestling because I look like a 12-year-old girl, and none of the other girls do. And I think I tweeted that night, a padded bra saved my life. And so we got to the back and he was just like, oh my God. Like he was like on the verge of tears and was just like, what can I do? Are you okay? And so I thought it'd be like really, to be a really good friend, I was like, let me make him feel so bad about this. Throughout the week, I told him I went to a doctor. My sternum was broken. I told him I was like reaching for water and I couldn't do it. So I just texted him throughout the week, like all this stuff. And he was just like, oh my God, are you serious? I was like, no, I'm joking. Like I'm completely fine. But yeah, every now and then I do tell him that he almost murdered me.
In the beginning of his WWE career, The Miz had a lot of heat and the wrestlers did not like him backstage, and he shares a funny story of how he had to change in the bathrooms that the fans were using back then because he was kicked out of the locker room.
This guy, when he got started in WWE, what came from the real world. He was hazed to a high level by the old veterans who thought he had no place being in that locker room. However, you did not cry and quit the WWE.
No, I didn't. It was one of those things where I got kicked out of the locker room.
It made him change in the public bathroom.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. It was brutal, man. Like it was one of those. It was one of those situations where like I wasn't allowed in the locker room. So if I had to use a restroom, I had to use the one that all the fans would be using.
So you'd be in there in your skivvies.
Yeah, I'd be in my like outfit, like going to the bathroom, and the kids would be like, "Oh my God, I think that's the Miz using the restroom right next to me." Like it was so embarrassing, but. It taught me, a lot. It made me a stronger person, and now I stand before you a former WWE champion.
This is how you land a job with the WWE when Vince McMahon was still running things.
Here's a story that I've never told publicly. During the interview process, I thought Vince had left the building. So I went to use the bathroom. I made sure I turned my mic off, which is one of the cardinal sins that people commit because the audio guys are always rolling. So I turned my mic off. I went to the bathroom, and there was a fella in the stall who had clearly been doing some work. And it was not a pleasant odor.
Okay.
So I, being me, said, hey, how about a courtesy flush? And I hear this laugh, and it was Vince.
No.
Yeah. So I'm like, well, I didn't get this job. And he goes, that's hysterical. Now I've got to hire you. And I've never told that story publicly.
That is a superb story.
This is why you can never sleep when you're around other WWE superstars because you will get pranked.
Big Show thought he was being really smart, right? So he brought up with him a giant blow-up mattress, which was a great idea. He was just with the wrong group of people. So, Big Show blows this thing up. I'm starting to kind of doze a little bit. And all of a sudden, army crawling up the floor is Vince. Show is sound asleep. Vince proceeds to put tiny little holes in his mattress. It's kind of like, oh man, oh shit, it's flat. And so now everybody's like, and then you just hear like this, God damn it, everybody thinks are effing funny. Oh, the show blew a stack, man.
Of course, Vince is like trying to, we're going to get to the bottom of this. That's bullshit. You don't mess with a man's mattress.
We have Cody Rhodes telling us another funny story. This time, it's about Randy Orton and urinals.
I was told that Randy is like a family man now and doesn't get in trouble, and I won't have it. Because the very first time I met Randy, we were in Cape Town, South Africa at the TV hotel. And I walked by the men's bathroom, and he had his hands around the urinal, and he goes, "Hey, Code, look at this." And he yanked the entire urinal out of the wall. The entire, like a superhuman strength, plaster ripping off the thing, flood just sweeping out into the lobby, and he giggled. And I thought, I don't know if I got what it takes to be a wrestler. I don't know. Had this big talent meeting the next day. Hey, there were security cameras, guys. We want to know who did it. He walked up in front of everybody, said, "Hey, I want to know who did it." And it's like, this is amazing. This guy is not.
Chris Van Vliet's dad decided to watch wrestling for the first time ever at the worst time possible.
Growing up, I was a huge wrestling fan, obviously, but you were a reason that I was not allowed to watch. So, yes. My dad despised wrestling. So I grew up going to church. My dad my parents still go to church all the time. My dad hated wrestling, especially during the Attitude Era. And I grew up in Canada, so we had basements. So I'd be watching on a Monday night in the basement, and I would have the back button to like a baseball game or a hockey game. So if I heard someone coming down the stairs, "Oh yeah, look, the Leafs are, wow, they're down 3-1. I can't believe this." So my dad would come and stand in front of the TV with his arms crossed. "You're not watching this." I'm like, "Dad, come on, it's not that bad. Also, move out of the way. What's going on here?" And he's like, "Look, Dad, it's Austin. Yeah, come on, seriously. What? What?" He goes, "All right, fine. I'll sit down with you just to see what this is all about." I'm like, "Oh, great." So he sat down with me, and no sooner are you attaching Stephanie to the symbol and sacrificing her. And I'm like, "Come on, Dad, this doesn't happen all the time.
This is a one-off.
It's very rare." He's like, "You are not watching this." I'm like, "God, come on."
We got a ton of heat over that.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, sorry about that, man. I was ruining your wrestling watching career.
The botch at the 2005 Royal Rumble is considered to be the greatest mistake in wrestling history. In one of the most unbelievable moments, John Cena and Batista both tumbled over the top rope and landed on the floor at the exact same time. It was a fluke so perfectly mistimed that it looked intentional, leaving fans and officials completely stunned. And just when you thought the chaos could not get any wilder, Vince McMahon stormed into the ring only to tear both quads, sliding in, adding yet another layer of absurdity to this legendary botch.
I see them both land. I went, "Oh shit."
I looked at the bounce of these two large men, trampoline, same time. It looked like it was the same time. That wasn't planned, I'm sure.
It was not. Thank God we landed when we did, kind of, at the same time. Yeah. It was a miracle.
You cannot map that out any better.
It happened. It's my fault. I can't flip backwards.
No.
It's totally my fault.
And I totally take blame for it because I went over. I knew what the finish was, and I just went over. And
as we trust the process, out comes Vince McMahon.
And then when I saw Vince coming down, I was like, getting fired.
And we're like, "Oh, great. This is going to be fixed."
I get through the curtain and all I see is him go to dive in, go to stand up and just Google. Oh, this is odd.
And he tears both of his quads getting into the ring. Woo! Oh no.
I think later on, I didn't realize during the match, I didn't know why he was sitting there. I had no idea what was going on, and I was just worried about the match. And then they got him out of there. I think I found out later on.
To the testament of the work ethic and just the absolute gumption and dedication of Vince McMahon. With torn quads, he gets himself in the ring and gives us the guidance to finish the event. I cannot believe Vince, with 2 torn quads, was able to speak to us in understandable dialect and tell us exactly what to do.
But it was the next day, and I got to the building, and somebody immediately said, "Vince wants to see you in his office." And I was like, here it comes. So I went to his office, and my heart is beating. I'm like, just in my head, packing my bags. And I walk into his office, and he's sitting, he's got his crutches beside him, he's all bandaged up. And he walks in, and he just starts laughing. And I was like, "You're not gonna fire me?" And he goes, "No, I loved it. It was real."
This is Cody Rhodes telling us about the worst match of all time.
Years ago, it's the worst match I ever had in my entire life. It's on SmackDown. It's right before the match. I told Michael Hayes, because he goes, "What are you going to do out there?" And it was really annoying because he wanted me to tell him verbatim what we were going to do, and we were like a minute away from going out. So in a very braggadocious way, I said, "We're going to tear the house down is what we're going to do." That's what I told him. It's not what happened, though. So we go out, and this is pre-Yes Movement, Daniel Bryan, and the original Sin Cara, the one that screwed up all the time. All the time. And Ezekiel Jackson against myself, Ted DiBiase Jr., and Wade Barrett. So at one point, Ezekiel Jackson is supposed to be the hero of this match. He's not even getting in until he gets that tag, that moment. He's going to be the hero of this city, basically. He's just going to light it up. But unfortunately, Ted DiBiase Jr. didn't kick out. Daniel Bryan comes in, shoots him to the corner, does the little drop kick in the corner. 1, 2, 3. And we're like 4 minutes into this match. It's a 2-segment match. So I think, I got a little experience at this moment. I'm going to make a audible. I look to tell Wade, well, let's just jump him. That's what I'm going to tell him. But as I turn, Wade is already up the ramp. He's furious. So, okay, well, then what do? You do the whole, all right, and you go to the backstage area embarrassed, and it wasn't me, it was Ted. But I will never forget for the rest of my life what happened next, because we come into the grill area, and there is Vince standing up, headset off. And I make eye contact with him. Again, it wasn't my fault. And right before he can say anything to me, Ted Jr. blows by me. No fear. Looks at Vince and says, "Where is that referee? He was trying to f*** on me." And because it was such an awkward, unbelievable moment and an incorrect use of the F word and everything that goes into it, Vince just real slowly put his headset back on, sat down, and we never talked about the worst match that happened ever again.
Undertaker tells the funny story of how him and Triple H had to pay fines for breaking a rule in the WWE, and it's hilarious.
Even after they banned the chair shots, so I'm wrestling Triple H, and we're figuring like, well, I'm the most tenured guy here. You're his son-in-law. Surely we can get away with it. Nah. He fined our ass too. I remember getting my check. For WrestleMania, and there was that big minus on there, and I was like, "Son of a!" And I called him up right away. I said, "Did you get fined?" And he was like, "Yeah, I got fined too." And I was like, "What the hell good is it to be his son-in-law or his most tenured guy, and you still can't?" Oh, but he had to set an example, right?
The Chris Jericho glow stick incident is one of the funniest stories that Chris Jericho's ever told.
DX was selling glow sticks, like rave glow sticks that glow in the dark. And there was a big brouhaha because the people at the O2 thought they might be used as weapons, and they weren't going to let them sell them. So they finally were able to let them sell them.
once again, main event was me and John Cena. Come to the ring, start doing my promo. Whatever it was, typical heel thing. People are booing, and some dude, lo and behold, hits me in the eye with a glow stick. And he hit me in the eye hard. It pissed me off. And I was like, all right. You want to throw stuff at me? Go ahead. Everyone start throwing stuff at me. Come on, what do you got? And dude, you can go on YouTube. There is a snowstorm of these glow sticks, and they're throwing them. Like there must have been 100. And I remember being like a ninja, like Sugar Ray Leonard, box them out of the way. Boom, boom. So some of them hit me, but they didn't know what they hit. Seeing his music, he came down, whatever. After the show, Sean and Hunter, furious.
Why?
Because there was glow sticks and
they hadn't gone out yet.
They had gone out.
Oh, okay.
But because people were people bought these things for 10 pounds each and threw them away to hit me. Some kid got hit or something, and they gave him a T-shirt, and then Sean's like, I just saved you from getting arrested. And I'm so mad because all anybody's doing is yelling at me for starting this riot. Meanwhile, it's like Slapshot. I got hit with a monkey wrench, and I was told by Johnny Ace that Stephanie wants you fined and she wants you suspended. And I'm like, well, Stephanie's not my boss. I don't give a shit Stephanie wants. You can tell her that. And I called Vince and I cut a promo on the answering machine. If this, I got heat out there, and Vince McMahon, the corporate boss, might hate it, but Mr. McMahon, the heel, would love this. This is my job. This is what I'm here to do. At the end of the night, the babyface beat me. What's the problem? You're going to fine me and suspend me for getting heat? I said, bring it on, MRFer. Come on. And he just texted me back with a little smiley face and said, calm down, Junior. And the next day at the Garden, went and saw him, and he's like, he didn't even mention it. He's like, yeah, of course you got heat. What's the problem? I said, that's what I mean. What's the problem? He's like, there's no problem. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Chris Jericho and Cody Rhodes said one of the funniest CM Punk stories of him trying to be a locker room leader, but completely failing at it.
No one ever says, I'm the leader. The first person who says that, especially there's a thing in wrestling, the locker room leader. Whenever somebody says, I'm a locker room leader, you definitely know that guy is not the locker room leader. That 100%.
Cody, do you remember this weird, Cody, we had this weird locker room meeting in WWE once where CM Punk said that? Do you remember that?
So I tried
do you remember
not,
that?
I tried not to name names.
I'll say it because it's my cruise.
But
do you remember they said
multiple times
as the locker room leader? I'm like, you don't lead me.
and it worked on a certain demo of the locker room. But there was one meeting where Booker T was in the room, and Punk hit the as the locker room leader, I'm telling you guys all to pick up your trash, and Booker literally threw his trash on the floor. And said, he's not telling me to pick up my trash. And they had this whole interaction.
The Undertaker and Paul Bearer pranking each other will forever be one of the funniest WWE stories I've ever heard.
So, you may or may not know this, but I don't care for cucumbers really that much, right?
Yes.
I'm not
I
scared.
feel like everybody knows this.
Yeah, I'm not scared of them. I just don't like them.
What don't you like about cucumbers?
They're the devil's. They're devil's spawn. They're just awful. Okay, when I was I don't know. I think I was in kindergarten, maybe first grade. I'd come home from school, and my mom had cut up a bunch of fresh cucumbers and had them soaking in vinegar, right? And my mom, I don't remember where she was at, but she wasn't in the kitchen with that voice that says, no, that's enough. You've ate enough, right? So I end up eating this bowl. I'm 5 or 6 years old. I eat this bowl of cucumbers in vinegar, and I get so sick. I puked my guts out. And from that moment on, for years, I couldn't, if I even smelled cucumber, I would get nauseous. And even to this day, I can, like, every once in a while, I'll be in a sushi restaurant and they'll screw up. Like, sometimes I can move them aside and pick them out, but
Has someone ever made you try to autograph one?
Yes, actually. Yeah.
Did you autograph it?
No, I threw it. They were pissed too, and I don't care. I used to be a smart ass with somebody else. I ain't signing that shit. Anyway, like, we had pagers. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, I get a page, and it was from the office, right? 203 number. And I said, we'd ordered food. We're sitting in a restaurant. Bryan Adams, Paul Bearer, and myself.
Bryan Adams is just as bad as Paul Bearer when it comes to ribs, by the way. And so I go to find me a payphone so I can call and see what's going on. So I come back, and both of them are just look like two little angels sitting there, right? And I'm like, all right, what'd y'all do? Yeah, because Bryan and Paul were the only people that would rib me. Nobody else ribbed me. I was like, what'd y'all do? And then I'm looking around, and Paul's eating salad. I'm thinking, salad? Oh, he's put a cucumber on something. Because the food came while I was gone. So I think I had ordered a burger. So I'm going through the burger and looking at everything, moving the fries and everything around. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I know you did something. One of you two did something. And Bryan's like, what would I do? What would I do? And I'm like, just shut up. Eat your food. One of you did something. I don't know what it is. I mean, I go through all my food. I lift it up. I make sure I'm not setting on anything. I'm thoroughly convinced, okay, all right, maybe I'm just being a little bit paranoid. So I take a bite of burger, great burger, dip my fries in ketchup, eat it. Oh, this is good. Grab my iced tea, go to wash it down. Paul had put a cucumber in the bottom of my glass, perfectly flat. So I couldn't see it until it was like one of those, and I see it, and I get a spit pop from him. Paul spits out his food. Bryan always like, what the hell? Call the manager. Call him. I'm like, shut up, you MFer. And I'm like, which one of you did it? And Bryan said, I would never, right? And Paul like, what? I don't know what you're talking about. Finally, I figured out it was Paul. It goes, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. I let it slide. Nothing else happens. I don't retaliate. We were driving from like Spokane or somewhere. It was a pretty healthy drive. We're about 20, 30 miles outside of Seattle. Paul goes, hey, will you stop? I need to go pee. I was like, okay, yeah, as soon as I see.
The Rock shares a funny story with Seth Rollins when Seth accidentally injured him but did not give a damn.
I'll share this with you really quick. You know what was really cool? Was when the Shield attacked me before the WrestleMania and then powerbombed me. And I remember Seth, I was on Roman's shoulders, and Seth in particular threw me down so hard on that mat, busted my blood vessels. Blood started coming up out of my mouth, and he looked down. Roman looked down and was like, "You okay, Uso?" Called me brother and Samoa. And I was like, and before I could answer, Seth was like, "Who gives it?" He walked away.
You know, this was 10 years ago. I don't have a full recollection of this memory. We did powerbomb you twice. Once in the dark through a table, and then another time we made you bleed your own blood. Yeah. I'm not sure which one, was which. There's a lot of things that happen in the heat of the moment. You know what I mean? It is what it is.
He said he regretted nothing.
Undertaker opens up with Chris Van Vliet about his wardrobe malfunction on an episode of Monday Night Raw.
Was your scariest opponent the jacket that wouldn't come off?
Oh, gosh. Oh, man. Oh, man, you've done your homework. Oh, my Lord. That might have been my toughest opponent for sure, man. Anyway, I make my entrance. I go to drop the coat off my shoulders. Well, instead of falling like it did at Mania, it folded. And the more I'm messing with it, the tighter it's getting. So now they've realized that I'm having a wardrobe malfunction. So now they're shooting. This is live Raw. Kane's in the front right corner, and I'm looking at him like with panic in my eyes, and all he goes is, "Oh shit." I'm like, "Oh, God. Thanks, little brother." So finally, one of the ring crew guys has to jump up. And I back up to the ropes. The ring crew guy is like having to struggle, get it back up on my shoulders, and then grabs it by the sleeves and it comes off. But
a lot of people do not like Cody's neck tattoo, and Cody actually shared a story that tells us that he wasn't a huge fan of it either when he first got the tattoo.
We're sitting there and I said something about his neck tattoo, and he goes, "Yeah, it was a little bigger than I thought it was."
The logo was already the American Nightmare logo I already had, so
Yeah.
I was never about the art. I was never about the look, and I went through this phase where I was away from WWE at the time. I was trying to really build my own brand and be my own thing. I was tired of wearing other people's logos. Like I hated going into Dick's and there's the Rock's logo everywhere. I was like, I want to make my own thing.
Yeah.
And I want to be as bold as making. I'm going all in on my own thing. So I had this idea that I would put it on my chest, and then I saw Conor McGregor, who was just absolutely box office hit, marquee guy. He had the big lion on his chest. Like, I can't do the chest. Then I, of course, think about The Rock, who's the biggest marquee guy, and my current boss as well. And he's got the Brahma Bull. Before all the Samoan tattoo, it was just a Brahma Bull. I thought, well, I can't do the arm. That's Goldberg too with the barbed wire. I thought, I'll do the neck. I'll do the neck. And I did. He showed it to me, and it was smaller.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's perfect. It'll peek right over the collar. I'm always in suits. That's perfect. And I love this guy. He still helps, he'll dial it up and fix it every now and then when it needs to be. But I did the dumbest, most alpha, toxic thing ever, is I sat there in the chair, and he kept giving me an out. He goes, you want to take a look? You want to take a look? I mean, kept giving me an out. You want to take a look? And no, I'm good. I'm like gritting my teeth. I don't know who I was trying to impress.
Yeah.
There's no one there. My wife's not there. Like, I'm good, And then I got up, and they're filming this. They're documenting this whole thing. I got up, and I saw it. And I didn't say anything in the moment, but it's like a kid on Christmas who the gift was not, it's not the right Power Ranger, basically.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, thank you. I think the first thing I said was thank you, shook hands, and then headed for the door. And I had to wrestle the next night. So I had a signing that morning where I wrapped it in a scarf because they wanted me to do it fresh right away or take months and let it heal. So I wrestled the next night. So I'm at this signing with a scarf around. It's coming up over the scarf. There are people clearly who know something's up. Yeah. I remember Jim Ross, legendary Hall of Fame announcer.
Yeah.
He thought it wasn't
He's a big
real.
Oklahoma guy,
Yeah,
right?
Oklahoma. Yeah, he thought it wasn't real. I walked into the production meeting, and at the time, I'm reading the production meeting. I'm the boss at the end. I remember him. Hold up. He couldn't believe it. Like he couldn't fathom that this giant thing now existed. But I tell people, I guess in the long run, it was really worth it.
It's kind of rad. I mean, here's the thing. I think for your job, it's rad. And if I didn't know who you were, I'd be like, this guy did 20 years, locked. Like he was.
It
this is
definitely
a
toughens you up.
dangerous individual.
Chris Van Vliet asked The Undertaker the most important question about him and Kane.
Do people still think that you and Kane are brothers to this
I get
day?
asked all the time. All the time. Hey, where's your brother? I said, hey, he's a mayor now. What? Shut up. Really? I said, oh, no, your brother. I was like, yeah, Kane. Yeah, he's the mayor of Knox County. No way. Yeah. Y'all really brothers, right? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Half brothers. Always clarify it. We're half brothers.
We have another legendary story about Andre the Giant, but this one is about his time with the Princess Bride and how he scared a couple of girls.
In fact, I do have a great story about Andre.
Say it.
My daughters at the time were 3.5 and 2, and so I said, "Okay, I'm going to England, and I'm going to be." And there's a princess in the movie, and I'm assuming they're going to go, "Oh, really?" And nothing. And then there's a sword fight, and then there's a giant. And as soon as the word giant got out of my lips, both of my girls perked up, and they started peppering me with the question, "What's the giant like, Daddy? How big is he?" And I realized they have to meet Andre. We go to his trailer. His trailer is as big as a boxcar. We walk up the steps and turn the corner, and we look down the length of the makeup trailer, and Andre gets up. And suddenly, the reality hits my girls, and they start screaming at the top of their lungs. And I go back to apologize to Andre, and I say, Andre, I'm so sorry. And he said, "Don't worry, boss. They either run to me or they run away from me."
This is what happened to Arnold Schwarzenegger when he wanted to pay for dinner with Andre the Giant.
What was Andre like?
Andre the Giant, he was there wrestling.
Yeah.
So he was in Mexico City. We were filming in Mexico City.
Yeah.
And so he was wrestling. And so Wilt and I would go to his wrestling matches. And then after that, Andre would take me out for dinner. And then afterwards, I pulled up my wallet and I wanted to pay.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, no, I pay. So I said, no, Andre, I mean, look, this is so unbelievable that you got me in to see you wrestle. You got us the front row seats and everything like that. So let me do my share. I'm paying. He says, no, I pay. I said, no, I'm insisting. He grabs me like this, and he lifts me up like a little kid, and he puts me on top of a cabinet of some credenza up there, and I'm sitting up there, and he then goes and pays the bill.
Being so big, Andre the Giant had issues with using things like the bathroom, and Hulk Hogan tells us this is how he would go number 2 when he needed to use the bathroom.
I couldn't fit the little plastic bathrooms,
Right.
And, it was very uncomfortable. I couldn't even fit, because it was a mold. The sink and the toilet and the shower was like a plastic mold.
Right.
So Andre had a hard time fitting anywhere. And so
Right.
like at the, the hotels and stuff, it'd be time to go down to the bus and, ring my phone up, just these weird ring on these old time phones.
Right.
Go, boss, come down to my room. I didn't know if you had the maid.
Boss.
I didn't know if you had the maid.
Do it again. How you do it?
Boss, come to my room. He'd laugh. I'd go down there, dude. He had spread the newspaper out in the bed, and there was like a pile of shit. Looked like a Clydesdale. I said, damn, Andre. He goes, yeah. Let's go.
And he would leave that.
I think it was hilarious.
No,
those are the type of ribs he pulled.
The Undertaker witnessed Ultimate Warrior crash out at a young fan at an airport, and it's hilarious how Undertaker tells this story.
He was so funny, man. So he ended up changing his name, right, to Warrior. And so he wanted to write everything he owned off. He would have this denim, and then he'd have it completely airbrushed. Like, he's got his picture all over it. Warrior down this, Warrior across the back. I mean, he was just like a walking billboard for himself. And, we'd be sitting in an airport early in the morning. Like, we traveled. Nobody wants to be at the airport at 6 o'clock in the morning. You're grumpy. Everybody's tired.
People come by and they know you.
Yeah. But then when you have it written all over your body as well, right? Like me, I've got my hat pulled down, my sunglasses on. I'm in a corner somewhere trying to blend in. But here, he's like a beacon of light that just says, yes, I'm the Warrior. Yeah. And I remember, I'll never forget this little kid coming up to him. He's like, Mr. Warrior, can I have your autograph? And he just goes completely and he was like, leave me the f*** alone. And I'm like, holy, this little kid, he's terrified, right? Then the mom comes and gets the kid and walks off. I go over and I'm like, Jim, you can't do that.
You could tell that Jim Cornette did not like Kevin Owens because the nickname that he gave him for his new gimmick was absolutely terrible. Let's hear what Kevin says about that story.
I cut this promo before getting kicked out of Ring of Honor, called myself the Antichrist of Ring of Honor. When I came back, I wanted to run with it. Jim Cornette said, you can't be Mr. Wrestling anymore because you don't wrestle. All right, whatever. So I'll just go with the Antichrist. No! It's not good. It's not TV product. I'm like, oh. So he looks at me. He looks at my good. He looks at my arm. He looks at me. He's like, how about this? And this is in public. There's people around. Mr. Evil. Mr. Evil!
I understand you're mad, but you've got Gatorade on my shoes that I threw.
They're on my shoes too. I didn't know it was gonna pop the cap. I was trying to be dramatic. Mr. Evil. So in front of people, I said, "That's awful." Well, damn it, come up with something better. I said, "Give me 2 minutes."
This is the most random Stone Cold Steve Austin story with Cody Rhodes, and I absolutely love it.
I got a great Stone Cold story. I don't know if you guys remember the New Japan Long Beach show. I wrestled Okada. But I went out to the parking lot, and he had come to watch that show and sit on the truck with one of his friends who was producing the show. And I didn't know that. There was whispers that Steve Austin was there. And he started walking across the parking lot. I mean, it's Steve Austin. He was giving me really sincere, genuine advice from, wrestling's most prolific moneymaker. You have to stop yourself from stop being a fan and listen to what he's saying. Listen. And so I'm listening, and then all this press and media is slowly coming. It's literally looking like they're moving up, and right as they got a little closer, he just patted me on the shoulder. He turned around, and he walked off into the darkness. There was no car, there was no hotel, there was no thing, and it was like Batman. It was legit like Batman because there were people like, where'd he go? And he was gone. So I don't know if he turned the corner and sprinted, but yeah, it's just a really special thing.
Here is the story behind Chad Gable and his iconic "Thank You."
But it's not thank you, it's thank you. Yeah.
Thank you! Yeah!
How did thank you become a catchphrase?
So
I think that was by accident as well. That was stolen from, I think, Always Sunny, if I'm pulling my right reference, because Charlie, in one of the episodes of Always Sunny, he says thank you like 3 times in a row. But the last time he said it, he kind of drifts off because I think he had done some, like, he had huffed something or something. But he's like, thank you. I always heard that last time he said it, and I was like, that's really funny. And then it was when I got my master's degree and I was being this obnoxious, like, schmuck. And so to thank people, I said it like that. And then I just heard the people's response and I was like, oh, that one's going to stick. Yeah, that one's going to stick.
Everybody wanted to make The Undertaker break character, and a lot of crazy things happened, especially when everyone tried to peer pressure him into doing a spinneroonie.
Triple H tells this great story about how everyone's trying to always get The Undertaker to break. And that the genesis of the people's elbow was The Rock creating this ridiculous move to try to get you to break. Do you remember that?
I do. You know what? There was such a time period there where I think that was the company's goal, was to see who could get me to break. I mean, it was nonstop. We spent an hour and a half one night, them trying to get me to do the spinneroonie. Oh, I was pissed. And here they come, one after another. Rock comes down. Triple H comes down.
12 damn years of dead man walking. I want to see one damn night of dead man spinning.
Everybody's down and doing these absolutely awful spinneroonies. And I remember seeing my spot to leave because the ring is full of people now, right? And I jumped out of the ring and I headed back to the back. Vince never forgive me, because I always told him, I said, I don't care who you are, what you do, you'll never get me to do that. That's the one battle I won with Vince.
This story never gets old about CM Punk wanting to take a bunch of stunners by Stone Cold Steve Austin.
As a performer, when me as the actor has to get the job done, but I get to work with somebody who I was a fan of. Were there any moments for you as a performer where, like, you know what you have to do, you know what you have to do in the ring, and that mindset is still there, but it's like, oh my God, I get to work with such and such. How many times has that happened for you, and what were some of your moments?
I doing dark match stuff with Austin, because he would always be around, you know, and it was like one of those things where he was retired, he's out of the ring, but they would bring him in every once and again. You know, like maybe he had a TV show he wanted to promote, or maybe they just, I don't know, wanted to pop the town or something like that. But I think wrestling has always had a difficult time figuring out what to do with people that were no longer in the ring, but were still extremely valuable. Like, how do we get more of that out? There's only so many coaching positions. And not everybody is a good coach, but like, you got a guy like Steve Austin. I remember I was in San Diego and he's just backstage, like, twiddling his thumbs. You know what I mean? I think they were doing like maybe a season of Tough Enough or something like that, like 2009-ish or something. So he was there, and then he's just like kind of sitting there, and I'm looking and I'm like, nobody's talking to him. He's just sitting by himself.
It's a wealth of knowledge.
And I walk up to him and I go, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What do you mean? I'm like, you done for the night? He's like, yeah, I did my segment. I was like, well, listen, I got to do dark match. And the dark matches at that point were like the worst because it's an advertised match to sell tickets. So whatever it is. And it was normally me versus John or Ray or Taker or, you know, Jeff until he was gone. So I was always the heel doing this stuff. And we were in San Diego, so I'm assuming it was Ray. And I'm looking at arguably the biggest star in the industry.
Whose Ferrari is this?
and I go, you want to come out and send these people home happy? Goddamn, kid. What do you got in mind? Like, well, I'm supposed to do a dark match, and I really don't want to take a bunch of bumps.
Yeah.
And nothing is going to make these people happier than me going out there, beating up Ray, inviting a bunch of other heels out, beating up Ray, and then hit the music. Glass breaks. You come down. I go, you want to give us all a bunch of stunners? And he's just, you know, and like, it's the first time I saw that twinkle in Steve's eye. He's like, goddamn, kid, can we do that?
It's amazing.
I was just like, yeah. I was just like,
do you know who you are?
You're Steve Austin. You can do whatever.
Right? Come on.
And now I gotta go get the boys.
Yeah.
Because we're in San Diego. A lot of people have red eyes and stuff. But I remember I got Miz, Truth, and I was like, guys, you want to take some stunners? And everybody,
Take
of course,
some
is,
stunners is
everybody,
wild.
of course, is just like, yes,
Yeah.
let's go. And it just turned into, we're all nerds. We're all just geeks taking stunners from Austin. And he does a beer bath, and like those people went home happy. Those people are going to come back the next time. They're going to walk past the box office and be like, I had such a good time, I'm buying tickets now.
Yeah.
It's like when I worked with Brett. And I say worked with Brett like I worked a match with him. He came in, and again, I was
You
working.
just made me think.
I was working a match with Ray. I want to say maybe Brett was the referee. This is just on some random Raw, And again, they bring Brett in. They're not really doing anything with him. I feel like we can better facilitate now what to do with all of these legends when they come around instead of just like, cheap pop. Here he is. Look at him.
Wave and
I want to involve him, and I selfishly never got to work with a Steve Austin or Bret Hart. So of course I walk up to Bret and I'm like, hey, I have an idea. You can say no if you want to, because I never know if anybody wants to do anything or whatever. What do you think of after the pin? I shove you and stuff like that. You want to punch me and put me in a sharpshooter? And again, and I see him light up, and he's just like, yeah,
I do.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Is it okay with me?
Yeah, please.
I'm a bad guy. Put me in the sharpshooter, Bret Hart, please. So there's been, I don't want to say countless times I've gotten to do that with some legends that I never thought I would be able to work with in any capacity. But yeah, again, fortunate. Like I got to do that with those guys.
There's a reason why Paul Heyman never wrestled in that ring, and he tells the story perfectly in his podcast. Can't believe this happened 2 times in The Rock's life. If I'm The Rock, I'm never trying to perform a rock bottom on that table ever again. The same thing happened to Kurt Angle with Triple H. This one was worse because Kurt Angle actually got concussed and did not know what was going on. However, this is freaking Kurt Angle we're talking about, the man who won a gold medal with a broken freaking neck. Therefore, he somehow went back into the match and finished it even though he was concussed and did not know what was going on. This is what Triple H said about the botch with Kurt Angle.
Except we get up on the table, I hook Kurt's arms, and as we're about to go for the pedigree, the table breaks from underneath us, but we come down and I watch his head smash into a control box, right? And yeah, it's funny, right? We hit and I go down and I hear Kurt start snoring. He's out like cold. So I put my hand on him, I go, Kurt, you okay? And he wakes up and he starts trying to get up and take a mouthpiece that he doesn't have in out of his mouth. And he's like trying to get up, so I grab him by his straps. I pull him down. I said, dude, don't move. Finally, I just tell, it was Earl Hebner. I just tell Earl, do not tell me one thing with a lot of expletives in here that they say from the back. I don't give a shit. I need one thing. Tell me if he's coming back, if he knows where he is. That's it. That's all I need to know. And tell me when. We'll just keep going until somebody tells me he can come out or he ain't coming. I'll figure out a finish. We get a note. Kurt can come back when you're ready. He has no idea where he is.
So he met one of the parameters.
Yes.
That is a badass. Logan Paul and Ricochet did give us this moment at the Royal Rumble.
He is highlight worthy. Oh my goodness, what a collision!
The timing of this had to be perfect, otherwise it could have ended up like that Cody and Carmelo moments. Logan Paul even admitted that he forgot to tuck his chin in, leading to a head injury. We were probably the first and last time that Logan Paul will do something like this.
Oh my goodness, what a collision!
Did you know The Undertaker once decided to try something different with his attire, opting for a pair of snake pants? He thought it would be a fresh change for his character, but it ended up being a huge mistake. Taker himself has said that it's one of his biggest regrets, as the look was met with so much negative feedback from fans and peers alike.
Yeah, there was a pair of snakeskin pants I wore at a match with Kurt Angle that I really regret. It's one of the biggest regrets.
They were very stylish, though.
No, they were horrible. And Terry Anderson, bless her heart, she did all my gear, pretty much my whole career. When I told her I wanted a pair of Python pants, she went, "No, you don't." I was like, "Yes, I do."
What was the thinking behind it?
I just thought it would be cool looking. They were snakeskin pants. I'm a biker. Yeah, it didn't translate well. I really regret those pants. Those are awful, man.
He quickly ditched the snake pants and never wore them again, proving that even the dead man isn't immune to a fashion flop. Do you remember Zach Gowen, the one-legged wrestler WWE hired to feud with Brock Lesnar? Well, it turns out that WWE almost brought in the wrong one-legged wrestler.
I think Johnny Ace got the edict to hire me just based off the buzz of my TNA dark match, meaning they had no idea what I looked like. And so Johnny Ace is like, okay, yes sir, I'll do what I'm told, like a good soldier. He started making some phone calls. Steve Kern, old buddy of Johnny Ace, is training Steve Chamberlain, the other one-legged guy in Florida. And he goes, yeah, I got a guy here who's got one leg and he wrestles. So how many one-legged wrestlers could there be?
Right.
And so it just makes sense that they hired him. But then I started wrestling on TNA on their pay-per-views. So then people understood what I looked like, and that's when they kind of did the math that wasn't me.
I think that's the first and last time that WWE makes a mistake like that again. And finally, the last moment has to be the first ever Hell in a Cell match where The Undertaker threw Mick Foley off the top of the cell.
Truth be told, I didn't want to do it. Like I said, like Mick, dude, this is craziness, right? Like, so he's on me week after week. He's like, I think I can do it. You know, you throw me off the top. I think fine. All right, you want to get thrown off the top? Fine, I'll throw you off the top. There, you happy? He's like, I've been, you know, and he had told me like I've been up there. I could see. He never went to the top. He never went to the top of the cell. He never looked at it, see what it looked like, and there we are. And I'm like, you ready? Bye. And then he hits, and he's not, I don't know that he could move, and I'm just waiting. Like, I'm just looking at him like, fuck, come on, Mick, move.
I just killed a man.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, that's what I'm going to go down in history for. I killed Mick Foley. And I'm just thinking like, Mick, just move. I'm saying this in my head. Finally, he starts stirring, you know, and I think somebody might have turned and gave me a, you know, like, yeah, he's okay. He starts climbing back up, you know, I'm like, oh shit, man.
This motherfucker doesn't die.
This guy wants to die. So little did we know that was going to be the easiest part of his night, because when I choke slammed him through the top,
dude, you didn't expect that to break like
no,
that?
No.
That's horrifying.
He rotates.
I know, through it.
He rotates
through the top of the cell.
Yeah, he rotates another couple of inches, dude. He don't get up. When that chokes it, he just never stopped, man. He hit that thing, and that thing popped all the way open. And then the chair that was on top come down, hits him in the face too. This is kind of gross, but like, he's got this huge booger, what I think is a booger in his nostril, right? Well, come to find out, it's not a booger, it's his tooth.
Oh. What, in his nose?
Yeah. It went through when he landed, his incisor went through his lip and lodged in his nose.
Oh my.
He gets his tooth out and he hands it to the ref. They say, hold that for me.
Hold that. Can I get that?
Yeah.
This is Bryan Danielson not understanding Gen Z slang, and I don't blame him.
So what I've been very confused by is when younger people say, I f with that, meaning that they like it or something like that.
Oh, like, I'd with that?
Yeah. I f with that. But they don't say I'd, like I would f with that.
It's just
they say I f with that. And my confusion becomes, if I'm f with something, it means I'm like I'm playing with them, right? Like oh, I just f with so-and-so. I'm just like, I'm trying to confuse them.
I just realized I'm cooler than you, because I would understand if someone said that, and I feel like I would vibe with it.
Kurt Angle and Eddie Guerrero got into a fight, and this is what happened.
I was involved in a fight with Eddie Guerrero. Eddie and I were like brothers. We played like brothers and we fought like brothers. And there was a night where this is where, you know, right before Eddie passed away, so he wasn't feeling very good physically. And a couple of my guys on my from the what do you call it society? What's it called? The Honor Society. I think I had the faction I had with Luther Reigns and.
The Straight Edge. No, that was.
It was called the something society. I forget. The name sucked, but they laid into Eddie a little bit too hard when they got heat on him at the end of a match in the ring. I didn't touch Eddie. So when we got backstage, Eddie was pissed and he was going crazy. He's like, you were freaking hurt me. You tried to hurt me. You were stiffing me in the ring. And I'm like, Eddie, I didn't do anything. I didn't touch you. He's like, yes, you did. And you're Goonies too. And he started going crazy and he got in my face and he's yelling and he's spitting. And so I pushed him. And then and when I did that, he tried to double leg me. And I got him in a front face lock and started choking him out. And Big Show broke it up. And the crazy thing is later on that night, John Bradshaw Layfield, who likes to stir the pot, goes to Eddie and says, why would you double leg an Olympic gold medalist? And Eddie says, because I'm freaking stupid. That's why. So it was the only fight I was involved in. It's the only fight that I did see firsthand.
Samoa Joe sending weapons to Jon Moxley is one of the most random stories ever.
You like to send weapons to my husband.
Yes, I do.
If something just like comes to the house that just says Mox on it, odds are it's from you.
It's a sword, a battle axe. The more ridiculous the weapon, the better I like to send it to mom.
And that's what it is. It's not like some like run. It's like usually some like medieval time.
Halberd.
Like, what else do you have in your garage? What kind of ridiculous items do you have?
I have a bucket of weapons just sitting in this room right now. You know, you pick up a battle axe over here, let's say.
Let me grab my battle axe real quick.
So for instance, got here a nice little Viking bearded axe. It boggles my mind that somebody sat in a field for 2 hours swinging this at somebody else and lived. As time went on, there's various people in my life I just like to send ridiculous weapons to just because just the conversation they have to have with their wives.
So you have other people other than John that you're sending these ridiculous things to?
No, John is currently the only guy right now.
Okay.
If there's one thing Bryan Danielson absolutely hates, it's reality TV, and here's why.
Oh, God, but then we had to film Total Bellas. Jesus. Okay, that's the part I forgot.
Yeah.
Okay, so then shortly after this, so I have to give this retirement speech, and then I have to go live in John Cena's house because we're filming Total Bellas. I hate. I don't hate many things. I hate filming reality
What do you
television.
hate the most about it?
God, all of it. It's just like you're constantly changing clothes on the same day to go film something to pretend like it's a different day. This is supposed to be real. Can't I just wear my same clothes? And they're like, no, you cannot.
Just have a uniform like John, white t-shirt and jeans.
And I also, it was really hard because, you know, like when you're going through something like retiring, this thing that you love gets taken away from you. You'd like to be around friends and family. Bree was on the road full time with wrestling. I'm in John Cena's guest house. There's all these rules. I've got the dog. It was just like, I love John, right?
Yeah.
I think John's great, but that's not the ideal thing to be in. And then they manufacture these arguments that sometimes turn into real arguments. And then one of the real arguments got real.
Oh, shit.
And then it was like, oh, Jesus, I don't want to be here anymore. So I just left. And yeah, it was bad.
Logan Paul accidentally worked himself into a shoot with Hulk Hogan, and it's the fun. RVD tells Chris Van Vliet about how he came up with the name of the 420 leg drop and how Vince had no idea what it meant.
I called it the 420 leg drop. I think 420 was it was kind of popular in the undertone at the time. So Vince didn't know what it was supposedly, but you know, people that knew thought it was super cool, and you know, they like to pop at it. And Paul came to me one time before TV, Paul Heyman, and said, Vince wants to know what is the 420 leg drop. And I said, oh no, that's when I grabbed Rey Mysterio. He goes, no, why is it called 420? That's all he wants to know. And I said, oh, he wants to know, is it a drug reference? And I said, drug reference? So no, there's 4 legs because I pick Ray up and then I kick my feet out. So we hit him with 4 legs and 20 is our combined shoe size. And he looked at me and he smiled. He said, gotcha. But Paul knew what it was, though.
Yeah. When do you think Vince figured it out?
I have no idea. Maybe someone told him later.
That's
I don't
great.
know. Yeah. Yeah.
CM Punk shares a funny story about his booking that made no sense on the road to WrestleMania in his match with The Undertaker.
And I think the reason I loved wrestling so much is because when I was in the ring, bell to bell, I didn't have a boss. And I always said and did things in the context, especially of house shows, where I didn't have to run anything by anybody. I would literally just do stupid off the cuff. I remember when, road to WrestleMania, I'm wrestling The Undertaker. And the first week after I won, maybe this is the genesis of the Undertaker.
For that match?
Yeah, so like I remember saying this is a really stupid way to wrestle The Undertaker at WrestleMania.
I forget who was writing at the time, but he got fired like right after that. Like whoever the creative person that was behind that, he was let go by the company like the next.
I just thought it was a really weird, like, oh, we're having this fatal four-way to see who wrestles The Undertaker. It felt like a disconnect. I was like, it's kind of weird, but whatever, I'm winning, okay. And like everybody in the match agreed. It was like Randy and Big Show. I was like, yeah, it's weird. Like, I don't know. But then I remember being in Indianapolis the next week, and I was wrestling Kane, and Michael Hayes comes up to me. He's like, all right, Kane, Spike, 1, 2, 3. And I just went, huh? I was like, what? Okay. That's what we're doing? I'm wrestling The Undertaker in 4 weeks, and what are you guys going to beat me every week? Like, what? And he's like, talk to Vince. All right. So I go talk to Vince. And Vince looks me in the eye and he goes, I've been doing this a lot longer than you, pal. Trust me, you're going to be more over as a heel after you lose. And I was just like, okay.
How do you argue that?
At that point, I was just like, yeah, all right. It's not my, it's not my company, but it's still me. And like I said, it was an uphill battle to try to make this match with The Undertaker feel like it wasn't so lopsided. I wanted to give reasonable doubt that, oh shit, this guy could beat the streak. Luckily enough, I did that wacky shit where I dumped cat litter all over myself that was supposed to be Paul Bearer's ashes, and I think that kind of ramped it up. Well, yes, it was cat litter. Yeah, and it wasn't used.
I like
cat
the one
litter.
guy who's disappointed it was not actually his ashes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm disappointed it wasn't really his ashes too. So, juggling things that way, like, always sucked. Because at the end of the day, I was like, well, you're the boss. It's not my company. But, like, not to get political, I wasn't like, well, how about if I should beat Kane? Like, it wasn't that. It was just like, how about I don't lose clean while I'm trying to, do this thing? It was just a difference of philosophy, I guess, and he was like, oh, you're going to be much more over as a heel. And I just remember just being like, okay, all right.
This is The Rock's advice for a very, very nervous Maven before his WrestleMania debut.
And I was nervous, and it's probably about an hour before I go out, and I'm literally, I used to think it before every match. I used to literally stand in the back and have that pit in the feeling in the pit of my stomach and be like, I hate this. God, I hate this. Why did you pick this as a career?
Yeah.
I want to, I don't want to do this anymore because I was so nervous. But then the moment my music hit and they went through the curtain, it all went away instantly. But this was WrestleMania, so I'm obviously terrified. And Rocky sees me, he comes, he's like, and he's just like the epitome of cool.
Yeah.
And when people get on me for trying to imitate him, okay, he's cool. Like, who the hell else am I going to imitate? But he's like, Maeve. So I'm like, yes. He's going to give me the secret. He's going to give me the special sauce. And as deadpan as you can imagine, he goes, Maeve, come here. He's like, and he like literally goes, no one's expecting much out of you. Just do the best you can. And turns around, and I'm like, what? And he turned, and then he turned, and you know that smile, and he gave me a wink, but that was the levity that was needed at that moment.
Yeah.
Like, just listen, dude, we're out here to entertain. Go out there and have fun.
Yeah, everyone remembers Rock Hogan. I was there.
Yeah.
I'm from that area, so I was there. Everyone remembers Rock Hogan. A lot of people don't remember that you even had a match there.
Thanks.
I mean that in the best possible way. Because
I don't know how I would take that bad. You were on the show, not a soul remember it. Wow.
I mean that in the best possible way because
that's the biggest compliment I've ever been given, right there.
Because you had that spot that I know Didn't go well.
Oh, I got it. I literally, for a video that we just did.
Yeah.
I literally just pulled up a picture, and I'll send it to you if you want to put it on the.
Let me see.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, show.
Because it wasn't just a spot. I completely. That's me missing the trash can.
Yeah.
That is me missing the trash can.
Gold Dust has the trash can.
Completely. I'm gonna send that to you so you can, put it in there. And I've dissected that. I threw him the trash can, and at the last minute, he underestimated how high I could jump, and the fact I should have told him, I can dunk pretty easy. Keep it up at your head.
Yeah.
And he puts it down at more like chest level, and I went over top of it. But yeah, I'm gonna send this to you.
You can jump too high.
Yeah, I was just too athletic.
Yeah, you're too good.
Damn, too athletic.
Paul Heyman and Logan Paul share a funny moment together during a WWE pay-per-view. Kids would call WWE fake to Cody Rhodes when he was a kid.
As a kid, that was like the... And my dad didn't smarten me up to the business. So multiple fights as in an elementary school where, hey, Cody got into a fight. And why? Because Tommy said, what his dad does for a living is the F word. And of course, my dad would not just help that. Instead, he had a weird 3-strike rule. Like, hey, tell him, okay, next time tell him, hey, that's how we make a living. Please leave me alone. Third time, you just punch him in the nose. And it was like always the nose. This is a really violent thing for a kid to think about punching a guy in the nose. But so the reason
you stomp your feet when you punch them.
Wind up, the big roundup crossroads.
Even funnier than that, Cody would go on to share an hilarious story with Roman Reigns.
Roman is your buddy.
I don't know, buddy is the
He's a face now.
Yeah.
He's a face.
But is he his buddy?
I got to tell him something for the first time.
Words.
I got to say something to him for the first time because you'd be shocked if you came backstage. You'd be like, "Are they wrestling me right now? Like, is this because we just don't have any interaction?"
Oh, really?
We don't. It's not. There's nothing. I'm not saying anything negative about him. I've never heard him say anything negative about me. We understand where we play at in this world, but I did get to tell him one thing before Bad Blood in Atlanta, which is to me it's the thing every wrestler wants to hear, which was thank you for the house, because tickets were really good for Atlanta. We had sold out, but then we sold out again, just because you open up when he was introduced to the fray. So I got that moment. I got nothing back, which it's a unique relationship.
What are you gonna thank you for? He did the house.
Well, I thought the tickets were. I'll be honest. Maybe I was waiting for a thank you for the house, but no, it's fine. He's incredibly special and done so much for WWE.
This is a couple minutes of Dominic Mysterio just roasting his father, Rey Mysterio, for absolutely no reason. CM Punk sharing a bunch of funny stories about his time when he was doing commentary when he was injured in WWE.
I flew to Nashville to get surgery, and the doctor was like, "How did you get in here?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" I walked, and he was like, "If you tore your glute medius," he's like, "you're not going to be walking as well as you are." He puts me in his MRI machine, which is way more high tech than whichever one I got previous. And then he gets me into his office, and he's got 2 computer screens, and he shows me both MRIs. And the first MRI, he's like, "You see this? It looks torn off the bone." He's like, "And you see mine, this white area?" He's like, "It's just torn." He's like, "I'm not operating on you. You just need to do physical therapy and rehab, and you'll be fine." And I was stoked because that meant I'm not getting cut. No surgery is bueno. And then I could just go home and off until, I needed that refresher. I needed to be off TV.
Isn't that crazy how people you get like an injury like that? You're like, okay, as long as I don't need surgery, it just means I can have a little bit of time off. Great.
Thank God. Yeah, I remember when Paul London broke Chavo's face, and Chavo was so stoked because it was an injury that enabled him to still be able to do everything. He could still work out. He can go running on the beach. He can swim. He could do everything. His face was just broken. And he was so excited because he was like, "Yeah, I'm not in a sling. I don't got ACL surgery, nothing." He's like, "Dude went on vacation,
Yeah.
So I get home and Vince calls me and he's like, "I heard you didn't need surgery. That's great. Sending you a plane ticket. We're going to have you do commentary until you're ring ready." And I was bummed because I didn't want to fly.
No.
I didn't want to do the physical therapy with anybody in WWE, but I did. And I remember the first night on commentary, Vince started yelling in my headset, and I was like, and I elbowed Lawler, and I was like, I wrote a note to him. I was like, which is the volume button? And he pointed to it, and I turned it all the way down, and his face, he was like, and I, you know, like when we took the headsets off after the show, he was like, I was like, did you not know you could do that? He's like, I mean, I knew I could do that. He's like, but we're gonna get yelled at. And Vince never said anything to me. Another funny story, I was doing commentary with Josh Matthews one time, and Cena took the monitors off the table, and they broke the table, and he chased Wade Barrett out of the thing. And we couldn't see because we had no monitors. And Vince yelled, call what's in the monitors, call what's in the monitors. And Josh, live on the air, goes, we don't have any monitors. And I was like, yes. Yes.
There's nothing better than a moment of like real reality like that during the show. It's the absolute best.
Sometimes you get to a point when you're a little lazy in the wrestling industry, and this is Matt Hardy telling us what Ron did back in the Attitude Era days.
Ron Simmons was he loves wrestling. He really enjoyed doing it. Although there were times like later in his career, he wanted to like take it easy. You know, there was one time, which I'm just going to throw out this story with Ron and John. I don't know if I've ever shared on here before. So we used to do these tent towns. Do you know like the tent shows that we would do like in the Northeast? They were smaller venues, but we would do 2 a day. You know, we would like go do a show, 2 on Saturday, 1 Saturday afternoon. We do 1 Saturday night. We do 1 Sunday morning. We do 1 Sunday night. And we did a deal where it was us versus Edge and Christian versus the Acolytes, right? So Terry Taylor was the agent on there. He said, yeah, we were just kind of thinking about this match, and really the program here is between the Hardys and Edge and Christian. So we want to beat the APA first. So we'll get you guys out, and you know, you guys go in there, have a great match, whatever, and do whatever you need to do, look strong, and you're out of the match, and then we'll like, you know, Edge and Christian and the Hardys, then they'll, you know, give us about 7 more minutes till we get to the finish, whatever. And that was the layout, the very first night of the match. And then whenever they heard that, they said, okay, Terry Taylor, and they thought Terry Taylor had some sort of grudge against them anyway. He said, all right, we got this. He said, let's just do it quick. As soon as you guys get in the ring, you eliminate us. And Ron had something where we were going to do something with Bradshaw, and all guys teamed up, and somebody rolled up Ron right off the jump. And, you know, Terry said, like, look good, look strong. I said, no. I said, you know, if we're doing 4 of these shows, he said, we might as well go ahead and make you guys look good. You know, we're going to really build you guys up strong. You guys beat the Acolytes in seconds. You beat the APA in seconds. That way you guys are going to look good and you can burn the house down. So they had that match. And then the next day, so we did that Saturday morning. We did that Saturday night, right? And then Sunday morning, I remember we walked into the venue. They said, all right, guys, you good? Same shit as last night. We don't have anything to talk about, right? And then I remember Ron, they came out last. And then we did the thing where we jumped and we ended up rolling him up. Ron came out. He had his rings on. He had bracelets on. He had he didn't even take his jewelry off. I don't even think he taped up his wrist. He just it was just so funny because he just did not give a shit. And then I remember he came in there and boom, we did that. We rolled him up and he said, all right, he said, we'll see you guys in the next town. And by the time we got back, they'd already showered and they were gone and they were driving to where the next shot was that night. But he walked into the ring with like his bracelets on and he just, you know, he always had that black tape on as the Acolytes. He just didn't give a shit. He was like checked out at that point. He's like, all right, well, you guys want us out first? We'll go out quick. Bracelets on and everything.
If you ever need some dip, just ask Brock Lesnar.
One of the most intense guys I've ever met in my life. I used to chew tobacco, right?
Yeah.
And he I don't know if he still chews it, but he chewed too, right? So I was out and I was like, hey, Brock, you got any chew? We call it dip. You got any dip? This one goes, what kind do you want? Oh, what do you got? He literally pulled out like 7 different cans of every fucking flavor there was. Which one do you want? Fucking tense. I thought he was gonna kill me with his eyes. Yeah, yeah. He gave me a dip in school, but yeah, just I think I get along with the guy actually.
This is why you should never touch Booker T's Red Bull because he will crash out.
So the only time I've ever really seen Book out of his mind pissed off, they would bring coolers into the dressing room and fill them up, put waters in there, some Diet Cokes and stuff like that. They never put Red Bulls, and Book would stop on his way to the arena. I'd get 2, right? I think he'd get 2 Red Bulls, and he'd put them in the cooler. Everybody knew, like, the Red Bulls are books. Don't touch it.
Yeah.
There's no other Red Bull. There's not been a Red Bull in the cooler. But he went for his Red Bull one day, and it was gone. Oh, my gosh. Talk about flipping a gasket. He cussed everybody that was in earshot of stealing his Red Bull. It was one of the Bashems, I think, right?
One of the Bashems.
Oh, my God. Yeah. And when he finally figured out who it was, I'm not like real, when things like that, I'm not the most compassionate person. I was like, damn, Book's about to kill him. His stupidity defense just didn't work. Like, well, I just saw it in there and I was going to drink it. And oh my God.
Dominic Mysterio speaks about the trauma that he got from that storyline with Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio. Cherry tells us a funny road story involving CM Punk, Hornswoggle, and The Miz.
So funny story, because I was obviously traveling with Deuce and Domino. And then since when you initially go on the road, you still get like your car and hotel paid for initially. And then you get taken off of that very quickly. So we had me, Jimmy, Cliff, Miz traveled with us, Punk traveled with us, Hornswoggle traveled with us. So we didn't have a hotel booked. So we're in Pennsylvania, and I don't even remember where, but I remember Punk saying he knew the area. So we went to this hotel, we pull up, and so Punk's like, I'm gonna go in with Miz and try to get us a room. So he goes in, and we're just like, it was a long ride, so we're all like, trying to get comfortable and just stepping out of the van or whatever. So Miz and Punk come back and say they only had like the presidential, it was presidential suite, but it wasn't like a big hotel. It was like a Ramada or something like that, or a Holiday Inn or something. So, but they were pricing this supposed last room at like a ridiculous price. So Miz and Punk come back to the car and they're like, it's stupid. They're like, they call me Slice, because of course on the indies I was Kara Slice. So Punk's like, Slice, go in there. So me and Cliff and Hornswoggle walk up. Now they don't know that we're not together. So me and Cliff walk in with Swoggle, and this sweet innocent guy, we're like, hey, we need a room. And Cliff's like, yeah, me and my wife here, it's been a long ride and we got to get it in or whatever. And we were totally hamming it up. We're going to have a long night, and my little man over here. And, Swoggle's being like a pain in the butt. So they're like, he's like, oh, I'll give it to you for this. And Cliff's like, great, we'll take it. Ready, honey? Like, we're totally hamming it up. So Punk and Miz come walking in, and Punk goes, we'll take the room. And the guy goes, no. They already agreed to the room. This is my last room. They already agreed to the room. And then Punk's like, what? You gave it to us. You're going to give it to them and this half man? So we start going, and I'm like, babe, are you going to let them talk to us like that? Like, so we start this like argument, and the guy's freaking out. He's like, I'm gonna call the police. And it was the same exact story that Punk put in his DVD. It was so funny. So Punk and Miz finally just throw their hands in the air, make a fit, and walked out. And the guy's like, he's like, I locked the door, don't you worry. And it was like one of those sliding doors, so he locked it. He's like, don't you worry. And I'm like, I'm so scared, honey. And he's like, it's okay, babe, it's okay. Like, it was so funny. So we ended up getting the room, and then we went down the back staircase and let them in the locked door. We all stayed in this suite.
Booker T did not know Stevie Richards' name and pretended like he did, and it's the funniest thing ever.
I think he legitimately didn't know my name for a long time, but he would say this guy, and right. I'd say, dude, you don't know my name, do you? Come on, man, come on. No, you really say my name. So when we worked in England for the hardcore title, that Insurrection pay-per-view.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Every time I hit him, I would say, what's my name? Like the Ali thing. And he would pop.
If you ever need to keep the bar open, just make sure to ask Brock Lesnar and he'll somehow get the job done.
And it was like you and JBL, I think.
Brock
Lesnar, Roman Reigns.
Yeah, we all got stuck there, man. I remember we was in the bar that night, and it was like coming up on 2:00 in the morning, and we were just in there, telling stories, talking and whatnot. And the lady at the bar, man, she was like ready to go. She was like, we're shutting it down, last call. We were like, can you think you can stay open for another hour? And she was like, no, we're shutting it down right now. Okay, guys, you want to get another drink, you better get it right now. And we was like, man, why she being so hot, man? She's going to make some money, we're going to tip her good. And we was like, all right, guys, let's get ready to wrap it up. And then Brock Lesnar walked down, and we told Brock, man, she's wrapping us up, man. We got to get out of here. And Brock said, hold on, let me go talk to her. Brock goes talk to her. Literally 2 minutes later, the bar is open for another hour. No problem. I said, what did this?
The power of Brock.
Bro, I was like, what did he say? I don't know. What did he do? But I don't know what it was about that big Viking.
That's what it is.
That went over, man.
Like,
but he told her something. And the bar was open, and we stayed there, and we drank until we closed it down, and everything was fine.
The legend of Brock Lesnar grows.
Man, that's a great story, man. Seriously.
JBL tells a funny story about how Chavo and Eddie Guerrero got into a backstage fight with each other about their mom.
I'm in the dressing room, and Chavo and Eddie pull me aside, and Eddie was like a brother to me. I loved Eddie, and so he said, "We got an idea." And they start telling me about the storyline. I said, that's incredible. Give Mrs. Guerrero a heart attack on Mother's Day while she's honoring Gory Guerrero in El Paso in the hometown. I said, that's incredible. And Chavo says, she'll take like a little bump down. And Eddie would say, wait a minute. Our mom is not taking a bump. And Chavo knows.
Very, very protective of her. Right?
Chavo knows now he's got him hooked. So he says, look, don't worry, John will take care of her. Maybe he just hits her with a little clothesline or something. and Eddie goes great. He goes, Chavo, John is not touching our mother. And he goes, okay, how about just a big boot? And now Eddie is about to fight Chavo, and it's only us three in the back dressing room. I'm like, oh my goodness, I got a brother fight between the two Guerreros. What do I do now? so finally, Chavo's got Eddie. And Eddie knows Chavo's working him up, but Eddie's still getting worked up on Chavo. They've probably been doing this for the last 40 years. So Chavo then says, okay, listen, how about mom just gets a little color?
That's great.
Eddie just looks at him. I'm going, guys, stop. Please stop. Please stop.
Vince McMahon might be a 5-year-old because he loves storylines like this. Mansoor tells us what he thought was funny during a SmackDown.
There was a pandemic segment in the PC where Sheamus was doing a urine test on Jeff Hardy because he had just, I guess, crashed a car on TV or something. And he was like, take this urine test to see if you're drunk. And Jeff he goes behind a curtain, pees in the cup. Of course, it's not real pee. And he brings the cup to Sheamus and he says, hey, Sheamus, it's better to be pissed off than pissed on, and throws the pee in his face. And I remember Vince coming down and being like, and then you say, better to be pissed off than pissed on. He just thought it was the funniest thing in the world. That's Vince's sense of humor. Yeah. Pee, poop, fart, slime, mud, dropping on people. So those were the two things. Those were the two times I saw him the most happy. Was doing our modeling segment and the pee segment with Sheamus and Jeff Hardy.
Bubba tripped during one of the biggest moments of his wrestling career, and it's a funny story.
I think it's our first. It might have been our first show ever at the Garden.
Wow.
It's a house show. It's the Dudleys, the APA, and I think Edge and Christian again. And APA eliminate Edge and Christian. Heat on Devon, go figure. And Bubba's going to get the hot tag. I got my family there. I got my fraternity brothers from college there. The APA are heels. We're white hot baby faces at the time. 20,000 people in rumbling at the Garden. They do a double down. Devon's crawling over. Devon gives me the hot tag. The place blows. I come in. I trip over the middle rope.
He doesn't just trip over the middle rope. So I fed in from the other side. Ron hits me with a tag, and I'm crawling in, with my head down. I'm going to feed straight into a punch or something and take a bump. So I'm rushing across the ring because I know Bubba's going to get in pretty quick. And as I do, Bubba doesn't even catch himself. He falls face first on the mat at my feet.
This is the middle rope too, Bubba. You don't tell over the top.
This is Undertaker and Booker T talking about stiff wrestling and stiff strikes.
So I want to ask you this too, because we had Steve Austin on the show, and Steve talked about how Booker was a little snug. Let's say when he was working.
I was done with it.
And then he,
Go
you
ahead.
know, one time I think you stiffed.
I stiffed Steve. I bust his lip.
And he said he couldn't wait to give him his receipt, right? Like he said, within 10 seconds, he was there ready to give him a receipt. So one, does Booker work snug to your recollection? And two, how patient are you with returning the receipt?
I'm pretty patient. It all depends on intent.
Right.
Like some guys just work very snug. But I remember this. I do remember this. It really I was taken back by it. So he clobbered me a couple good times, right? And I pride myself on my punches. Like I feel like I can make it look like I take your head off and not touch you. Every once in a while, one gets away from me because I throw them straight and I throw them right at your face. And I remember hitting him with one, and him having the audacity after cauliflower in one of my ears with his working punch. He goes, "Ooh, that seemed like that was a live wire." And I'm like, "Are you shitting me? You've been waffling me for 15 minutes, and I let one slip, and you're calling me out on it?" I was like, man.
This might be one of the most awkward bathroom experiences I've ever heard.
You know, we used to have to sit out there for the pre-show, so me and Michael Cole would be out there when it was just us for 4 or 5 hours. So, I mean, you're having to call all these matches because, you know, they cut up these matches and they show them, you know, for the next 50 years or whatever, how many time period. So you got to be good on every match. Then you've got to go to the next one, got to stay strong. But the whole time you can't go to the bathroom. So we used to have to quit drinking water, you know, like 2 or 3 hours before the show. So I found a bathroom in one arena and it was about 50 feet from the desk. So I'm sitting there the whole time. I'm drinking my energy drinks and all of a sudden Michael says, "You're never going to make it." I go, yeah, I'm not worried about it. I didn't tell him that I found this bathroom. So I'm sitting there drinking the whole show. We got this like 4 or 5 minute video clip, pre-roll. And so I said, "Cool." I take my headset off and I run to the bathroom. Michael goes, "Oh, you bastard. You bastard." So I get in there. And I asked the guy before the show, I said, "Is this bathroom closed to public?" He goes, "Oh yeah, no public's allowed in here." I said, "Okay." So I've got this, you know, bathroom is gonna be perfectly quiet. I walk in there, there's 100 people probably in this bathroom, fans. It's a public bathroom, and all during the video roll and commercial, they go to the bathroom. And so I walk in there, and everybody like, "JBL!" I'm in there in a tuxedo. It's WrestleMania, middle of the show, and there's 20 people ahead of me. And I said, "Guys, I am so sorry." They told me this was not a public restroom. I said, "But I got to be back out there in less than 3 minutes." I said, "Can I cut in front of everyone?" And they'll go, yeah, come on in. So let me come in. They're all chanting, "Let him pee, let him." So, try going to the bathroom when you got that. And then as I'm going, guys are trying to take selfies with me. Come on, guys, come on.
Kane shares some very funny stories involving Paul Bearer.
Paul Bearer, who was the absolute best in the world, where he'd pull up into the arena and you'd be driving and he'd roll down the window to all the fans in line and go, "Kane can drive, Kane can drive."
Yeah, I was in San Diego. Paul tells me he's sick and could I drive into the arena, and we rented like a Cadillac, a red Cadillac, right? So, you know, that's really inconspicuous. And I've got my ski mask on and I'm driving, and Paul Bearer is over there hunched up against the window like he's sick. And you remember, Jerry, in the sports arena there in San Diego, you'd pull down and then
that
all
ramp.
the people. And again, I mean, the business is super hot. I mean, we got 10,000 people probably surrounding the ramp when you drive down. So I'm driving in, I'm trying to hunker down as much as I can, driving a red Cadillac wearing a ski mask. And all of a sudden, Paul Bearer, who had been deathly ill 30 seconds ago, raises up and starts evangelizing to the crowd. He's like, it's a miracle. Kane can drive. Kane can drive.
Oh,
and
man.
inside, of course, Austin comes up to me. He's like, hey, I heard he could drive, kid. I'm like, yeah, thanks.
He can be the grumpiest human being on the planet and can get mad for days.
Yeah. Another time out in LA, Paul always wanted to eat this Mexican restaurant down in Anaheim. And Paul was such a creature of habit, man. I mean, it literally had to be, the day would be mapped out. We're leaving at this time. We have to be here at this time and the whole deal. So I land in LA. We meet up. I'm like, hey, man, I'm going to borrow the car. I'm going to go to the Gold's Gym at Venice Beach like I always do, work out. Then I'll come back, pick you up, and we'll go to the restaurant, right? So I go work out. I leave. Traffic's terrible. I get back to the hotel, and it's like 10 minutes away from showtime by the time I get back to the hotel. So we didn't get to go to the Mexican restaurant. He didn't talk to me for 3 days, okay? The only reason that we started talking again was because a few days later we had a show in Salt Lake City, and we went to a nice steakhouse afterwards with the Godwins, and I picked up the tab. Of course, then Paul was my best friend again. Yeah, dude, he didn't talk to me for 3 days because he couldn't get his chicken tortilla soup.
Ric Flair has a funny story about Andre the Giant, and this is it.
I have been on a 747 with him, Rich. He drank every bottle of vodka on the plane. On a 747 going to Tokyo. Every mini bottle on the plane. I mean, I know other people are drinking it too, but let's get serious. Who runs out of vodka, right? And then it switch to something else.
What does a mini bottle look like in Andre the Giant's hands?
Yeah, I know, And then I was with him one night at the Downtowner in Charlotte in '75 when he drank 106 beers. Yeah.
That's unbelievable. Who counted? You counted?
No, we were there drinking, and he just, pretty soon the bartender just said, Frank Vawal drank 56, his manager at the time, and Andre drank 106. Yeah.
It's a lot of bottles on the wall.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's from that's from 10 o'clock until like 4 in the morning. Yeah. Listen, guys, he could go.
CM Punk's pipe bomb is one of the most iconic moments of all time, and this is a story behind that pipe bomb.
There was no story. That was me. I thought I was going to get the mic cut. This is what happened with that. I was leaving, and for some reason, I showed up at TV, and they're like, well, you get your wish. You get to air your grievances. And I was like, wow, cool, really? Yeah, so just, write down what you want, and we'll show it to Vince. And I was like, he's not going to let me say anything. It doesn't make any sense. So what I did is, unbeknownst, because I didn't want to get anybody fired, unbeknownst to, I wrote a phony one, which got approved. And then I went out there and I said whatever I wanted, because there's no way in hell Vince would have let me say anything about Paul Heyman. He never would have let me say anything about Brock Lesnar. He never would have had me mention Johnny. There's certain things that if you know. And the funny part about that promo was the reason I said hi to Cole Cabana is I completely lost my train of thought. It was one of those surreal moments. I was sitting there and I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this right now. I can't believe they haven't shut my microphone off. What am I going to say now? Hey, Cole Cabana. And it took me long enough, and I finally got the wheels turning again. But no, that was kind of like the trigger. Like I was going to say something bad or revealing about Vince, and that's when it got cut. So that was, I literally thought I was going to get the plug pulled way before that, but they let it fly.
Bully Ray shares a funny story about a wrestling receipt that he got back in the old days when he first joined the WWE in the Attitude Era.
I remember it like it was yesterday. Like we had to attack you guys, and I said, Devon, no matter what we do, whether we take care of them, whether we beat the shit out of them, they're going to beat the shit out of us. So we might as well give it to them first and show them that we respect them, but we're not afraid of them, because they're going to hand us our ass anyway. And that first night, I cracked you with that 2x4.
Oh my God. Bubba hit me so hard with that 2x4. I lost feeling in my feet and my hands.
Wow.
That's how hard he hit me. I literally am sitting there thinking, he just paralyzed me. I'm not kidding you. Of course, I haven't been hit by many 2x4s. I didn't wrestle hacksaw very often. I've never been hit like that in my life.
Wow.
And Jerry, I didn't want to use a 2x4 because it's hard to work a 2x4.
Yeah.
You can't get a grip. So I remember going to you guys and I was like, Ron, John, I'm like trying to be so humble and nice. I'm like, the 2x4, it's kind of hard to get a grip. Maybe we could use, and Ron cuts me off and he goes, you do know how to work a 2x4, don't you? I said, yes, sir.
There's no good answer to that. If you say no, you're like, huh? Yes, sir.
And then there was that live shot that we did on Monday Night Raw where I think we laid you guys out again. And now, Jerry, we're on the Raw set and we're going to get interviewed by Michael Cole. And this is live.
And understand, we have had the living hell beat out of us like no one had ever beaten it out of us. And we just sold, we sold it, didn't have a lot of choice, sold it and stayed down. So now it's our turn.
And now we're going to go live and Ron and John are just right off the set. They're waiting to do their run-in on us. And about a minute before we go live, Jerry, I remember looking and all the boys started to filter into the backstage area to watch this live shot. And when I saw that, I knew something was about to go down. Me and Devon were just, all right, whatever. Here it comes. And, we're going to go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we start talking. And I can see steam coming out of Ron and John's noses. They were ready to kill us. And that's exactly what they did. They hit the set. They beat the crap out of us. Ron Simmons is picking up a 50-gallon drum, a shoot 50-gallon drum, and just having his way with the both of us. They beat us up so freaking bad. And then when they yelled, cut, me and Devon got up. We shook their hands. And I think from that moment on, John, everything was totally fine.
Everything was fine.
This is the famous CM Punk story on Tony Atlas. It is one of the funniest things I've ever heard before.
It's a funny story. At the time, it really wasn't. I was the ECW champion. I was set free from my OVW obligations, meaning they told me you don't have to live in Louisville anymore. You can go wherever you want. And I was just like, cool. I mean, I might as well just stay here and hang out, I would still go to the OVW shows every night just to watch. And that day, I believe Joey Mercury came up to me and he goes, hey, I'm going to sign a TNA contract. And I was like, really? I was like, oh, good for you. So it turned into, this is the last time we're ever going to get to wrestle each other. And I was like, oh, yeah, all right. So I went to Danny Davis and I said, hey, can I work a dark match? And Danny was like, you can do whatever you want, kid. And I was like, great, I'm going to work a dark match. And it spirals out of control into this 4-on-4 tag. I can't remember exactly everybody who was in it, but it was literally like, oh, Seth, you're my buddy. You're in the tag match. Oh, Spears. Yeah, let's do it. So.
Just trying to have fun.
Yes, just trying to have fun. So I'm, like I said, I'm the ECW champion, whatever the that means. And so I pull out my bag and I'm getting ready, and I tape up and I'm Xing out my hands, and I'm like, this is just gonna be fun. It's gonna be friends, goofing off, but having a good time. And Tony Atlas walks in. He's like, hey, and I look up and I'm like, oh, hey, Mr. Atlas, hi, I'm Phil. Nice to meet you. What are you doing there? And I'm like, I'm just putting my gear on, I'm gonna work a dark match, And he's like, looks like you got 2 broken arms. And I just go, yeah. Cause I got no idea where he's going with this. And I'm just like, yeah, okay. And it's that awkward. And he just says it again. He's just like, I mean, all that tape, it looks like you got 2 broken arms. And I just go, well, it's just a thing I do. I tape up so I can draw the X's on my hands because I'm straight edge, and I can see this is just.
You're not it's
not registering. I'm not getting through to him. And I after I get done explaining it, and he's just like, well, you know what I think? I think if you don't listen to your coach, you're never going to get called up to the big show. And now I'm just like I look down in my bag and like the ECW title's there, and I'm just like, I said, I just went, okay, all right, sir, thank you, all right. And he leaves, and I just go, man, that was weird. But you always hear, this is the guy I've seen on the MTV show hiding money from himself and having women step on his face with high heels on. So I'm just kind of like, I guess that's just how he operates. So we have the match. It's a tremendous piece of business. It's great. It gets over current OVW angles. Old favorite Joey Mercury comes back. CM Punk's back. Everybody, we do good business. Baby faces go up. Everybody leaves. Everybody's happy. Remember, I'm like Dante from Clerks. I'm not supposed to be here. We're having the post-show meeting that they always do late Wednesday nights, and I'm sitting up in the bleachers with all the other guys, and I got the Major Brothers next to me, and I got Joey Mercury next to me, and I'm honestly kind of half paying attention because they're talking about the television show and what they can do better and like how they think it went, and they're getting critiqued and blah, blah, blah. So I'm like kind of zoning out, and then all of a sudden Tony Atlas is like, well, I think most everybody here was nice. And I'm just kind of like sitting there just like, that's cool, and he's like, but one person in particular was an asshole. And I'm just like sitting there going, man, that's brutal. Like, he's just calling people out, and I'm just sitting there, and he's like, some people listen to what the coaches have to say, and remember, and he starts talking about how he could bench press more than Hulk Hogan and how he beat Hulk Hogan for real one time, and he's like, and a lot of you are really good, and he would like go off on these weird tangents. He'd be like, you remind me of Tito, but some of you are an asshole. And then that's when, Joey Mercury elbows me, and I'm like, And then I look, and then I realize he's just staring right at me, and I'm just like, this is weird. And he does it again, oh, everybody was great to work with, and I'm going to have a good report for everybody except for some asshole. And then I just start looking around, and I realize my phone's buzzing. I realize the Major Brothers are like texting on their phones. They're like, oh, and then finally I just stand up and I go, are you talking to me? And he like wigs out. He's like, yes, you're an asshole. And I was just like, well, fuck you. And I may have said, I didn't say, do you know who I am? I said, you don't even know who the fuck I am. I said, you don't know his name. He called Spears Mr. Piers. Like I was just like, listen, man, like you come down here and I know why you were brought here. You were brought here to tell people not to fucking do drugs and to save your money because that's something you didn't do. I go, and you're going to criticize me. Listen, it's in the past. I've buried the hatchet with Tony Atlas, all right? Like that, this was literally like over 10 years ago, and we talked and we hugged it out. But at the time, I was like, bro, I'm the guy who just made it out of here, surrounded by guys who are trying to make it out of here, and you're attacking me, and I don't know why. And he started talking. He was like, I told you to take the wrist tape off, and you didn't. And I was just like, dude. And he was just like, well, go to hell. You'll never make it to TV. And I was just like, I'm on TV. I was like, I don't have to be here. Why am I being punished for coming back and trying to help? That was the last time I showed up at OVW. It turned into a big thing. Those who politically didn't like me loved it because they went straight to Vince and they're like, literally, we're going to get you fired. And so like me explaining it to Johnny the next day, Punk, what happened? I got Tony Atlas sitting on the tarmac. Tampa International says he's not getting off the plane until he gets paid. And I was like, what? What the f*** does that have to do with me? Well, he doesn't want to go to FCW and get yelled at by somebody. Apparently there was a problem. I'm like, yeah, there was a problem. And I told him what the problem was. And we ironed it all out. And, I remember walking into a locker room Somebody ran and told the Undertaker because they were so excited because they thought the Undertaker would get mad about it. So I remember I go to the Undertaker. I go, so did you hear any good stories lately? And he just laughed and he was like, yeah. And I was like, all right, great. We good? Yeah, all right.
Is 60 minutes of funny WWE stories. The first is Maven talking about Randy Orton hitting on a woman in the front row during one of their matches.
We did a match one time, and this is, oh my God, this was the funniest thing. I probably shouldn't be telling this. It was a house show in upstate New York. And in the middle of the match, I'm the heel at the time, so I put chin lock on Randy. And he tells me, he's like, throw me out opposite hard camera. And I'm like, what? He's like, throw me out opposite hard camera. So I pick him up, glom him on the back, toss him out, go over to the ref. And I look over and Randy's pulling himself up on the barricade, hitting on two girls.
That's funny because he met his new wife at a house show. She was like in the audience.
Yeah. And I was just like, this guy is so good that just a wrestling match is nothing to him, that where he can go out and hit on girls during house shows. Like, that's just how good he was. And still is.
We should not be too surprised with this, considering that he let a woman do this to him at a live event. Randy Orton's truly a legend. Not only was he putting on some of the best matches, but he was simultaneously working on getting the ladies at the same time. This funny story might be enough evidence to make him the undisputed GOAT in professional wrestling. Sticking with Randy Orton, our next funny story is told by Mr. RKO, and he talks about an early memory with Brock Lesnar that was too funny to not include in this video. I love how Brock Lesnar actually has no care in the world. This story gave me Patrick Star vibes. This story is so funny when you think about how Brock Lesnar is a legitimate huge beast, but he's clearly a big goofball. We all know that Vince McMahon is a complete lunatic. Most wrestling fans already knew this before he got into his latest lawsuits. There's been stories of him getting mad at people for sneezing, or his attempt at creating a storyline where he was the father of Stephanie McMahon's child while she was pregnant. That's just insanity. However, this story for Matt Hardy might be the craziest one yet. To give some context, Matt Hardy and Edge were in an intense feud for SummerSlam. They actually hated each other after Edge took Matt's girlfriend, Lita, while he was dealing with an injury. WWE then turned this into an on-screen storyline, and this was Vince McMahon getting them both ready for their SummerSlam match.
I'm gonna explain something to both of you right now. This is really what I want to see. This is basic psychology. This might sound crazy to you, but I have done many studies in the basic psychology of human beings and animals. He said, have you ever seen two animals in the wild kingdom when they're going to fight one another? Have you ever seen one animal wound another animal? And when it wounds that animal and the animal starts bleeding and it smells the blood, it gets bigger, it swells up, it grows, and it just wants to kill the other animal. Do you know what I'm talking about? He said, listen to me, these are your primal instincts. This might sound crazy, but when two animals, their primal instincts kick in and survival kicks in, and it's their basic primal instincts, and we all have them even as human beings. If you see someone weaker than you see someone that's crippled or in a wheelchair, deep down your primal instincts, you want to destroy them. You want to eat them. You want to eat them alive. That is what we do. That is what human beings do to one another. That is our basic primal instincts. If you look at a primal human being and the psychology behind it, that is our instincts. You want to take the person that is weaker than you, that is below you in the food chain, and you want to eat them. Do you understand? That's what I want to see out of this match. And Adam and I, now, we had got so freaked out from Vince's monologue. We were sitting beside each other, almost like cuddled with one another, like, what the And yes, we understand. We will follow this to a T. Thank you very much, boss. And as time ticked on down the road, myself and Adam, we think Vince brought us in there and he tried to freak us out to bond us, to give us something to talk about. And really we were on that page. Everything about that match was super professional. But Vince went crazy. He went insane. He told us, have you ever seen a crippled person or a person in a wheelchair? You want to eat them. That's a quote. He said that is basic instincts, human psychology.
I don't think I'm ever going to look at Vince the same way after that, and that's saying something because I already didn't. I guess he just understands basic instincts and human psychology. Okay, Dr. McMahon. Moving on, we have 3 hilarious stories between Christian and Kane. The first funny story is about Christian talking about how he had reoccurring dreams of Kane chasing him. It's wild how everyone had these dreams, even the wrestlers themselves. Let's listen to the dream.
I was probably 6-8 months behind him coming in, and I remember for whatever reason, I started having this recurring dream/nightmare about you, and I'd never met you before. And it was you as Kane, this grunting monster that never talked. And the first one was, I remember I was walking out of my grandmother's house, and I got on the porch and I turned around and you were behind me for some reason. And you were grunting at me, and it scared me. And I'm a grown man, by the way. And I run away.
No, that's the grown man part.
That's debatable.
So I run away from you, and I run down the block, and I turn around and realize that you didn't catch me. And when I turned back around, you were standing in front of me, and you ripped my arm off and started to beat me with my own arm. And I thought to myself, well, how am I going to get out of this situation? This guy's beating me with my own arm. So what do? I think that I'm going to kick you in the knees to kick your knee out. I go to kick you, but you move and I accidentally hit you in the nuts. And then you screamed like a girl. You went, eek, like this really high screech. And that's when I ran away, and that was the end of the dream. And the next one was I was somehow walking backstage at Raw, and you were coming down the hallway, the other end, and for whatever reason you randomly threw a clothesline at me, and I ducked it. And you looked at me and you were like, doing your Kane stuff, and you were mad that I ducked your clothesline backstage. And you chased me out into the parking lot, and I slid underneath a car. And it was just you underneath the car, like going, like trying to reach and grab me under the car, and I'm like kicking your hands away. And that was the other dream that I had of you. And I remember Adam was reporting back to you these dreams that I was having about you. And when I finally met you, I realized that you really were a mean person in real life.
Yeah, that would tear off arms and beat people with it. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's just nice to know that you were dreaming about me before you ever met me.
Right.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that, right?
Mm-hmm. I think it was foreshadowing how close we become in the future.
I'll be honest, that sounds a lot worse than the Kane nightmares I had during my childhood. I do love the one line he said about Kane being a mean person in real life. That was perfect. Christian might be one of the funniest guys out there in professional wrestling. If you need more proof, here's a random story of Christian punching Kane for no reason backstage and then simply just running away.
Now, let me tell you a story about Jay. Yes, Jay and I thought we were friends, and hadn't seen him in a few months because we were on different shows, and I forget where we're flying to, but
Denver.
Walking through. Yeah, we were in Denver. I'm walking in the Denver airport, and anyone that's ever been in Denver, they have this really long concourse right in the middle of the airport, and I see Jay, and I'm all happy because I haven't seen him in months. So he's like, "Hey, how you doing, man? Hey, Jay, it's good to see you, man. How's everything going? Great. Hey, would you like to grab something to eat?" And I'd actually had just gotten something to eat because I had to catch my flight. I'm like, "Oh, man, I'm sorry, I can't. I just had something." Out of nowhere, he just punches me in the stomach and then just runs away laughing in the middle of the airport for no reason.
And then I hear down the corridor.
Why would you do that to another person?
And then I hear yelling down the corridor, "You're such a dick!" as I run away, which was great.
Yeah, a person that you supposedly like. That's how you treat them.
I do like Glenn.
Yeah.
I will never understand why Christian would do something like this. I think he was just bored and needed to mess with someone. Sadly, Kane seems to be a victim in a lot of his stories. The next one is another example of Kane being a victim for no apparent reason. This story is about a time when he poured water on Kane's face and then also ran away, which seems to be a theme for Christian.
This is a really good one, actually. So I walk in this. We're at a live event, right? So it's kind of more relaxed than being at a TV. So I walk back and I walk in this dark locker room, and Glenn is sleeping on the floor, like in his Kane outfit.
No, I was stretching actually.
No, I thought you had your eyes closed, whatever it was. So I go over and I stand over him, and he's on the ground, and his eyes are closed, and he's like in this really peaceful moment. And I had this bottle of water, and I'm just sipping this bottle of water. I'm standing over me, he has no clue I'm there, and I'm just looking at him like, I don't even know why I did it. I just dumped some of the water on his face. His eyes pop open, and I've never seen him so mad, and it scared the shit out of me. I started to run. All of a sudden, there was a chair by him. He flings this chair across the room, and now I'm doing the high step, and this chair is tumbling behind me, behind my feet, as I'm running away. And then I actually waited a few minutes. I hid so he'd calm down, and then I went back, and I was like, Glenn, and he's like, and he starts apologizing to me. That's how nice Glenn is. He's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to throw the chair at you. I was like,
the reaction.
yeah.
I was like,
So I was like in my head, I'm like, okay, I've spun this around already. I'm like, it's okay, Glenn, I forgive you.
I'll let you go this time.
Yeah. So.
Now, but just to like, so Glenn is in his full gear.
Yeah.
Basically, where you walk in on Kane Yoga and you decide that dumping water on this huge human being is a good idea. What is not firing in your brain?
Well, when the water was on its way down is when I realized this isn't going to be good, but it was too late. Yeah, it was like an impulse. And as soon as I saw his eyes open, I was like, oh boy, I better get out of this room. So that's when I hit the bricks. So
we knew Christian was funny because of his hilarious on-screen moments, like the time that he said he was going to sue the WWE, or this entire Dead Father run in AEW. But these backstage stories show us that he's even funnier than we thought. We're going to need his podcast to return because I'm sure there's plenty of more hilarious stories that he needs to tell. Christian's not the only one with funny stories. Andre the Giant is another professional wrestler with great tales. On the Joe Rogan Experience, Jake Roberts spoke out about the time where he actually wrestled the Giant in a match, and during this bout, a move went wrong, and something happened to Jake the Snake that he could have never predicted.
I'm wrestling him, and we had this little thing we'd do where he'd get me in the corner, and then he'd just throw that weight into me, which was pretty easy to register. And then I would slide down, and then he would grab each side of the rope and do the ass drop. Of course, he's got these ropes. Well, that night he went to do it, and his hand slipped. Oof. So all of a sudden, his ass lands right here. And just, I heard vertebrae just, and I'm like, can I breathe? I just want to know if I can breathe, because I couldn't at the moment. It's like, screaming, and I turned over on my side thinking, oh my God, how bad is it? Because I figured my sternum was broke, whatever.
Yeah.
And he sits on me, and I'm laying there, oh my God, trying to catch my breath, trying to let everything come back in, because I'd seen the lights coming at first, so I was going to pass out. And then I hear Andre laughing. And I hear the referee say, Andre, why are you laughing? He goes, I'm farting. And I'm like, what? And I could feel my shoulder just vibrate, like, and he's farting. You know how long a giant can fart?
How long?
About 40 seconds. He's like, wow. But it was a steady flow. It wasn't, it was
48 years worth of farts.
Man, he got up. I had like a wine stain on my shoulder, a birthmark.
This entire story is iconic. Who knew that giants could fart for minutes? I also love the fact that Jake Roberts was panicking, thinking that he was about to have a heart attack or something like that, for it only to be Andre laughing while farting. Enough about Andre's farts. Let's move on to the next funny story. This is about CM Punk's legendary WWE return. As we remember, he got fired from AEW, and then he came back to WWE to return in Chicago at the end of War Games. It's one of the best moments of all time. It got even better after CM Punk told the story of how it almost went wrong because of miscommunication between himself and Triple H.
And they're starting the War Games match, right? So it's literally like, I don't have a deal yet,
We're at the end of the show.
Yeah. So I'm just sitting in there, and the lawyers are going back and forth, hammering stuff out. And Triple H walks in, and he's just like, if this gets done, we're just going to wait. When the time's right, we're going to bring you in through Guerrero. And I was like, okay, great. So contracts get executed, and it's time. And it's literally just like, okay, deep breath. open the door, walk through Gorilla, and now it's like there's so many people in Gorilla.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I get bear hugged from behind. And like as I kind of turn around to see who it is, it's Bailey.
Standard
and
Bailey.
She's like,
Okay.
I knew it. You know? She's like, as soon as they started yelling at us to clear the hallway, she's like, I knew it.
Yeah.
And she's not letting go of me. And then like, you know, the Triple H is there. Regal, I remember looking at Regal and Regal going,
Look at us.
Yeah,
like that Paul Rudd video. Look at us. Hey, look at us. Look at us.
100%. You know, but there was just so many people in there. It was like, and then I don't know what to do. I absolutely lose my composure.
Yeah.
Because all I know is I'm coming out.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the set looks like. I don't know if there's a ramp. I'm literally like in the dark,
walking in blind.
And so I'm trying to talk to Triple H over the table, you know, and it's so loud and there's so many people and they like hit my music and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
What am I doing?
Look cool.
And he's like, go out and walk down to the cage. And I'm like, go out and walk all the way down to the cage.
That's crazy.
And he was trying to tell me that there was 2 cages for the baby faces and the heels for the War Games.
Yeah.
And he wanted me to walk down and stand in between there. And
So
in
we
my
end
head,
up-
I'm like, I'm marching all the way to the
All the way.
cage.
Yeah, right.
And he's like, no, and my music's playing.
Yeah.
And you're like, we're going back and forth. And I'm like, we're both freaking out. We're like, no. And like, he rips his headset off. And I'm like, oh God, what are we doing? You know, and we figured it out. But
That's
the
amazing.
place,
I'll never look at that the same
right?
again.
Yeah, the chaos backstage, brother. I mean, it's the last minute.
Someone's got to have this on film too. You know?
There was so much stuff going on back there, and they film everything now. So I'm sure someday we're going to see a lot of cool stuff.
We got very lucky that the 2 cleared things up because can you imagine CM Punk walking down to the ring instead of being at the stage? It would look goofy. Things would have gotten real awkward. Thankfully, the return was epic, and now we have this funny story, which makes it even better. The Undertaker's podcast, 6 Feet Under, is the best wrestling podcast in the world, in my opinion. We found out that Taker has some of the funniest stories. To make it even better, he's a great storyteller. Undertaker's second career in podcasting has been a great success. There was even an episode with Mark Henry that had people laughing the entire time. I think the funniest part is when they were telling stories about Owen Hart. This is when you realize that Owen Hart was hilarious. We have 4 Owen Hart stories told by The Undertaker and Mark Henry, and the first one is about Owen Hart trolling his opponents when calling spots.
Owen Hart used to make me laugh so much because he would always do either a backdrop and he would go, my shank. And I would be like,
He would say this
what is a
stupid-
shank? Like he was nuts.
Oh, I'll get you back. Owen would like he'd be throwing you in for a spot or something like that, and he would just make up some kind of ridiculous, impossible thing to physically do on the move, right? And you're turning like, what are you? And he's like turning, double reverse monkey flip, head scissor. And you're trying to process that while you're in a full stride, and then he comes up and he just takes a tackle or something like that, and you are just like your ass is puckered because you have no idea what you're about to do.
Imagine trying to have a serious match and then you're in the ring with the biggest troller of all time, Owen Hart. You would be absolutely cooked. His trolling was so funny that Mark Henry said he was on his knees laughing so hard he could not wrestle in the match. This is Henry talking about the time that he trolled during a battle royal.
I think the best one I ever saw, and I legit got in trouble because I started laughing. I went down to both knees in the middle of the match. I'm in a battle royal, and they were like, "What were you doing?" And just fussing at me. And I was like, Owen grabbed this guy named Sean Stasiak. We in a battle royal. It's like 25 people in the ring, and he shot him off. And told him, hey, duck the clothesline and cross-body me. I'm standing this close to him. I hear everything. And I went like this, and he shot Stasiak off.
You don't do that in battle royals.
He was doing like this, dodging people, and hit the ropes. And I'm laughing, and I went down to both knees. And got fussed at because I was so entertained, and the people in the crowd had no idea.
They had no clue.
Yeah, it was
You
for
just can't-
Owen.
you
It was
can't
for
do that.
him. He was just doing it for him.
And he'd do it all the time.
You had to be extremely funny if you had Mark Henry laughing that much on live TV. It sounds like Owen Hart was ribbing everyone in sight. He wasn't even afraid to prank the boss himself, Vince McMahon. In this next story, they talk about the time that Owen Hart put a bunch of barn animals in McMahon's office, and this is what they said.
I mean, I was riding with Owen at the time, and the people with the animals had just pulled up, and they was like, "Hey guys, do you know what we need to do with these?" And Owen said, "I do," and left his bag and said, "Follow me." And I knew, I was like, "Oh, shit. What is he doing?" And I'm hurry up. I park the car. I get my bag. I get his bag, and I'm trying to go in the building. And I'm looking. Hey, where did Owen go? And they was like, he went that way. And I went, oh no. And I knew exactly what was that way in this arena. It was Vince's office. He took chickens out of the cage, a pig, a goat, bro. Like they shit everywhere. There were chickens on the ceiling fan, and Vince, like, you could hear him. Oh,
he knew exactly.
He knew, and Owen's like, "What are you talking? I wasn't even there.
I wasn't even there.
I wasn't even there." And that was his response for everything. And Davey, like, they would look at Davey. I just got here. And like they were in complete denial for everything. I'm telling you, they would be so over today.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That nobody would be remotely close.
And the last story comes from Mark Henry. He was talking about his cell phone that he had in the late 90s. This was around the time where you had to pay for your minutes, and usually his bill was around $700 a month, and it's a good thing that we don't live in the 90s anymore. But anyways, Mark Henry and Owen Hart would just prank call people all day long. They did it so often that his bill would end up being over $2,000. Anyways, let's listen to the prank stories told by Mark.
The biggest bill I ever had was $2,300. And I mean, it was Owen and me playing on the phone. And the rib was on me. I thought it was great. It was funny at the time until I got that
bill come in at the end of the month.
And Owen would call his dad, and he would be like, "Excuse me, sir, is this Stu Hart?" And he'd go, "Yeah, who the is this?" And then he'd go, "My name is Robert. You didn't pay your taxes. We're gonna have to come and take you home." And just, he would do all these jokes. He got my mom. I had never heard my mom cuss. I grew up in that house for 18 years.
Never heard your mama cuss.
My mama was the church lady. And Owen called her one day and told her he was gonna come by and take her house because she didn't pay the taxes. And she was like, "Wait a minute, I pay everything. I pay all you," like, yeah. She just going through it. And Owen said, "Listen, lady, don't get smart with me." And my mom said, "What?" And I'm over there just dying laughing. And at one point, he said, "If I have to move you out myself, you're gonna have to get out." She said, "Well, bring your ass on. I will you." And she just went off. She said at least 8 cuss words that I had never heard. She had never cussed.
In 1991, we would see one of the most iconic WWE moments of all time. Jake's Cobra Snake would bite Macho Man on national TV. It was a moment that instantly turned Jake Roberts into one of the biggest heels of all time. We did not really see anything like that before, and on Joe Rogan's podcast, we got a little insight on what happened before this segment. Macho Man did not trust Jake or the Snake. Therefore, Roberts was forced to do something crazy to prove that the Snake was not going to actually hurt Macho Man. This is Jake telling the story with a surprisingly really good Macho Man impression.
That's a real thing. Here's the story. I'm in the locker room behaving myself, not minding a soul. In fact, I believe I was cleaning the washcloth, blackboards off, and I was making it nice for everybody. And Macho walks in. He's like, "All right, brother, we're gonna do it tonight, I guess. Huh? That's the story going around. We're gonna get down and do it." "Yeah, dude, sounds great." He's like, "We gotta take care of a little business first, though." I'm like, "What?" "About the Snake." "Yeah." has he been fixed or not? Fixed? You mean poisonous? He goes, yeah, that might be the problem. I'm like, Randy, of course he's been fixed. He goes, maybe he has and maybe he hasn't. Stranger things have happened in the WWE. Somebody wants the Macho Man's Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship title.
It's just
they
you
put
and
a
him.
poisonous snake on him. That rest is history. Macho's dead. Snake's the champ. I'm like, dude, are you Cheek? I'm just telling you this. He has to bite you now.
Wow. Whoa.
I'm like, what? He goes, if not, we got to go at it right now, me and you. And he's up in my face with his fist. I'm like, man, what the is wrong with you? Don't play no games, G. Get the snake out. So I got the snake out, man. I'm like, you psychotic mother. I'm like, any special place you wanted to bite me, like my dick? What? And he's like, anywhere's good. How about the leg? I'm like, fine. So I got the Cobra out and I pulled my pant leg up, shimmied him a little bit, and stuck my leg up there, and he bit me. 3-4 seconds, let's go. Macho's like, now don't move, don't take no elixirs, don't take no antidotes, don't take no pills, don't take no Pedigerm free or any of that. Just sit there. I want to see the poison go through your body.
That's a great Macho Man.
Kidding me, man? And finally, after about 10 minutes, he's like, I guess you're going to be okay. Well, sorry I didn't make you happy. I could have died. If I'd known you want me to die, I'd die.
CM Punk was very disappointed at the ending of WrestleMania 9, and quite frankly, he just did not know what was going on. And it's so funny when he tells the story of how he did not like that ending.
Unless I can think of something that was earlier, I remember being confused as to why, was it WrestleMania 9? When Hogan just came out of nowhere.
And challenged Yokozuna? Oh,
yeah.
Man. After the Bret Hart match, Yokozuna beats Bret Hart.
That doesn't feel good.
Yeah, it didn't feel good at all. As a kid, didn't feel good at all. And I don't know how smart or not smart I was at that point, but I remember watching it and just being like,
yeah.
What?
That didn't fit. So for those who don't know, WrestleMania 9, Bret Hart wrestles Yokozuna in the main event. Yokozuna beats Bret Hart. Then all of a sudden, Hulk Hogan comes to ringside with a black eye that we don't even know how he got.
Knowing what I know now, the finish of WrestleMania with the heel up is just kind of flat.
So you don't like the bad guy winning at the end?
And you don't. I mean, there's a time and there's a place for it.
That wasn't it.
It for sure wasn't it, TJ.
It was just so weird when Bret had salt, Yokozuna or Mr. Fuji, I guess, through the salt in Bret's eyes, and then Hogan's coming down talking to him, and Bret's like, yeah, go get him. And I'm like, wait, what? Go get him?
It's not sanctioned.
How's this real?
They made Bret look
a little suspect.
That's for sure a heartbreaking moment.
In 2019, Batista returned to WWE for his final match with Triple H for WrestleMania 29, and during the beginning of their feud, these two had a segment where Batista was begging for one more match with Hunter, and he repeatedly screamed, "Give me what I want" to Triple H. It was an odd segment that somehow worked, but we would later find out that this was a botch.
What about the actual promo that you cut on Triple H? Did you think that would become
Which one?
Give me what I want?
Oh, it's weird because we got somewhere in that thing, it was supposed to be that, but we didn't really figure it out. We didn't talk about it. It wasn't written out. So there's certain things we were looking for in that promo, and there was something that I hadn't said, so he kept dragging it out, and wasn't sure what it was. So I had to keep escalating because once I went there, I couldn't go back. Right. So that's why he kept screaming it louder and louder. I'm waiting for his cue. He's waiting for my cue. And we just weren't getting there. And then finally it dawned on me I needed to say something in that promo. I can't remember exactly what it was. But yeah, that's why it got bigger and bigger and bigger. It wasn't intentional.
When was this?
This was
this year?
A couple weeks before WrestleMania.
Oh, for WrestleMania.
Yeah, 2-3 weeks before WrestleMania.
Undertaker and Brock Lesnar have one of the best feuds in WWE history. The rivalry started in 2002. It continued in 2014 when Brock Lesnar ended Taker's legendary WrestleMania streak. The feud was great, and it even gave us this hilarious SummerSlam moment. The Undertaker actually shared a funny story about this moment in an interview with Chris Van Vliet.
When we talk about you sitting up, I think one of the greatest Undertaker moments, I'm sure unplanned, is you and Brock laughing at each other.
That was Brock. And that is not, he kind of, so we talked a little bit about that match, and he ran it by me, but I don't think I was paying enough attention to what he really wanted to do. So when he did it, I was almost taken back a little bit, like, freaking hell you laughing at? And then it kind of dawned on me what he was doing. And then I laughed back at him, and it's become kind of an iconic deal. But yeah, I don't know that I would have, if I'd have been paying close enough attention, I probably might have said, I don't know if I want to do that. But the way it worked out fine.
It's such a good moment.
It was, unfortunately too, it was at the tail end of my career, not in the middle or the front end of it, because that surely wouldn't have happened then. But I think for the time period, it worked out. It worked out okay.
What's the way you're laughing at him that makes it so funny?
Well, yeah, I'm laughing at him because I'm mocking him laughing at me. That's the whole deal. You laughing now? Ha ha ha! Bad things are about to happen here.
In his podcast, The Undertaker goes in depth when talking about a spot that Vader wanted to do in their match. It was a terrible idea, but what made the situation even worse is that JBL was ribbing Vader, telling him that The Undertaker was gonna love his crazy idea. It's safe to say that The Undertaker was not a fan of it at all. This was Vader's impossible spot.
Well, this is an easier way to describe it. I think the finish that Shawn Michaels and I did.
Okay. Yep.
Where he went for the moonsault. I caught him.
Yep.
Boom. I give him the spike. Leon wanted to do that with me and him.
He's about what?
4.
Yeah, about say two bills bigger than Shawn.
2 and some change, right? Or 4 and some change is what he actually weighed. So he tells Bradshaw this, right? They were driving for some town to another, drinking beer. Of course, John being John, he's like, oh, Taker's gonna love that. Anyway, he just, they're drinking beer and they're riding in the town. You gotta tell that he's gonna absolutely love that. And now Leon's getting right. He's like, really? You think he'll go for it? He goes, oh. You kidding me? I know him. I know he's gonna love it. So next day we're at the venue. I'm sitting in my dressing room. Leon comes into the dressing room, grabs a folding chair, sets it down. I mean, right in front of me, like just like no space awareness at all. I mean, that's how close we are. And he's like, "Look, I've got the great finish for our match." Yeah. What do you got? And he was so animated and so excited about it. He goes, "Okay, boom! I drop you. I may even hit you with the Vader bomb, right?" And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, all right." He goes, "After I hit you with the Vader bomb, I don't pin you. I get up and I go to the top, and then I go for the moonsault. But before I hit the moonsault, you set up." And then as I'm floating as I'm doing the black, you catch me, and boom, we go right into the tombstone. When I'm sitting there. It's quiet now. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, wow, I'm thinking to myself, wow. Now, John is in the room. John is in the dressing room. He's kind of a little bit further down. He's the one that actually told me how this went, because I hadn't looked up yet. But I guess Vader Vader, so he's facing me, but now because I ain't looking up, I hadn't said anything yet. Now he's looking back at John and John is going, and finally it's like, well, what do you think? I sat back and I looked at him, and then I just got up and walked out of the room, right? I didn't say a word. He's sitting there like, John said, he turned back to me and he was like, what happened? And then of course, Bradshaw being Bradshaw, he goes, he loved it. He's going to tell Vince right now.
Bobby Lashley had a very interesting character idea. He pitched to have his character become extremely depressed to the point where he became fat. And the payoff would be losing all that weight because he got inspired or whatever. This guy basically wanted to pull a Nikado avocado. This is what McMahon said when he was pitched the idea.
So if you stopped wrestling and you were like, I'm not wrestling, I'm not fighting, I'm done with all this, you don't have dreams of just becoming like a fat guy. You would because you like working out.
I told Vince a year ago, I think a year or two ago, I told him, I said, I want to do this character. He said, what is it? He said, if I get beat one time, I want to go into the severe depression and put on like 40, 50, 60, 70 pounds and just be fat. And then and be a completely different character. And then have like somebody like an MVP or somebody that's on my side kind of like pull me back and then have the crowd watch his transition back to me.
You're a psycho, dude.
And he said, there's no way you can do that. I said, man, I think I can do it.
The Iron Sheik was probably insane, and it seems like everyone has a funny story to tell about him. We have 3 hilarious stories about the legend. The first one comes from The Undertaker, who talks about when they were roommates. All Undertaker wanted to do was get some sleep before the next day, But the Sheik made that impossible with his late night shenanigans.
Me and Sheik ended up having to split a room. He's like, hey, Marky Baba, maybe we split room? And I'm like, yeah, sure, Sheik. Yeah, we can do that. Excellent, Bubba. All right. So around 1:30 in the morning, Sheik comes in. I don't know, maybe another 30, 45 minutes after I did. I'm kind of just right there on the edge of some good sleep, and he goes, excellent, Marky Baba. You get into good rest, yeah, Sheik, I'm getting some sleep. That's excellent, brother. So, he lays down, falls asleep. I don't know, it's like a couple hours later, I wake up freezing. It's wintertime. Yeah. And I wake up and I'm like there's just a wind coming at me, and I'm like, what? I'm sound asleep, but I'm like, what is going on here? And I wake up, and I look, and Sheik's bed's empty. And then I looked the other way, which there was a balcony, sliding glass door, had a little balcony. It's 4:30 in the morning. And Sheiky's out there doing Hindu squats. I'm trying to fall back asleep, and I hear the sliding glass door shut, and then I was like, oh my God. Instantly, the room was warmer, right? Yeah. I'm like, oh, thank goodness, right? And I'm looking at the clock, and I was like, man, I got like another 2 hours I can sleep before we got to get up and get on the road again. So the next thing I hear, the shower's on. Full steam. I'm like, oh my gosh. So this shower goes on and on and on and on, and finally, I hear the water turn off. Oh, thank gosh. And I look, I've got like an hour. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Hour, 15 minutes. Okay, go to sleep. Then next thing I hear, blow dryer starts. Now, I've been awake now for a while, so I have my faculties about me, and I'm trying to think, like, what on earth is he blow drying?
And I'm having this conversation with, he has no hair, he's bald, he shaves his body, he's, you know, and I'm thinking, I get up, I gotta go, like, you know, and the door isn't completely open, but it's open enough that all the sound is coming out, right? So I go and I like start to push the door open, and he's blow drying his mustache. Excellent, Bubba, huh? Mustache look good. I'm like, yeah. Are you gonna be much longer? No, Bubba, go to sleep, get some rest. Well, that's what I'm trying to do.
Why aren't you asleep?
Why are you? Yeah, he was perplexed. Why aren't you sleeping? It's like, because you're making all this damn noise.
And the last Iron Sheik story comes from Jake the Snake Roberts, who left him on the road during an argument that they got into, which is hilarious.
We're on a long road trip, and just him and I in the car. And all of a sudden, man, he just goes, pull the car over. I cannot believe you said that. You don't say that to the Iron Sheik, baby. You don't do that. I'm going to pull over. I'm going to stretch your ass, you sucker. And I'm like, what the are you talking about, man? I had no idea what he's talking about. Pull over. I pull over right now. I'm going to bend you over the car and treat you some respect. I'm like, motherfucker, man. So I pull over, man. He gets out. I just drove off. Yeah, I waited about 2 miles down the road.
Let him cool off.
Yeah. Let him walk up, and he got back to the car and goes, oh, Jake, you're too much. I can't believe you leave the Sheiky baby on the road. Oh, I love you. Let's do some gimmick.
We got one more funny Andre the Giant story. This is from the same Joe Rogan podcast episode with Jake Roberts. But in this video, Jake talks about riding with the Giant, where he somehow drank an insane amount of beer.
So I got the take care of Andre thing. They give me a van. Said Andre will sit in the back. Got him a beanbag chair. Just take him to the building. He'll do his thing. Give him a ride back to the hotel. Cool, 70 miles, no problem. 80 miles, whatever. So we get through with the show, and he's like, beer. Okay, he talks, he walks, you know. So I stop and get him beer. I'm like, I'm going to get a six-pack my damn self there, Andre. And he goes, 2 cases. It's an 85-mile trip, man. Yeah, 2 cases. I'm like,
2 cases?
I guess he wants some for his room, right? So we get back in the van. We start driving. I don't know about you guys, man. Back even when I drank, until I get into that first third or fourth hour, I got to piss. Like every time I have a beer, I got to piss. I don't really buy beer. I just rent it, you know. I rent it, then I go get rid of it. But so after, 30 miles, I pull, hey, Andre, sorry, I got to piss. I get out and piss. Get back in the van. You don't know nothing, beer. Okay, take it easy. I hear the pop tops keep pop, pop, pop. I'm like, he's fucking with me. He's fucking with me. We get a little closer, I got to piss again. Finally get there. Gets out and says, I'll get your beer. He goes, finished. What? You drank 48 beers? Yeah. Yeah, right. Off you big goof, He leaves. I get in there. First thing I do, I'm checking with my hand, make sure I'm not putting my hand in piss. Because I figure this mother never got out to piss. He drank 2 cases of beer and did not have to piss. I don't care if you outdrink me, but damn it. How can you do that? I mean, I felt so inadequate. This guy drank 48 beers and didn't piss.
48 beers in 80 miles.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Oh, that was nothing.
Before joining the main roster, Kevin Owens was in NXT while Dusty Rhodes was running things, and this is Kevin Owens and his favorite Dusty Rhodes story from his NXT days.
So there was this thing, and I don't know how they are now anymore. I don't think they're like this anymore, but they would do, cool ringer. They would be we would put on little shows at the Performance Center where they would have a couple matches, and the only audience was the wrestlers and the coaches. And it was just to give some of the guys experience that they not necessarily have yet. But when it wasn't Matt Bloom that was in charge, they would make us set up the guardrails as if it was an actual show, and there was fans to be held back, which was just work for no reason. But it was just to give us something to do, I guess. And on one of those particular afternoons, Dusty wouldn't usually attend those shows, but that day he decided to attend. So I pretended like I put on a guardrail. Then I just went to sit down next to Dusty, and we just started talking as everybody's sending this stuff up. I was like, what are they doing? I'm like, oh, well, we act like it's an actual NXT show. He's like, why? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, they even sing the national anthem. He's like, no way. I'm like, I'm telling you. He's like, I don't believe you. I'm like, okay. So whatever. Finally, everything gets set up. Like, okay, everybody go take their spot. So I just go sit in the crowd on the other side of where Dusty is. Dusty's by the coach's desk or whatever. And sure enough, the ring announcer walks in and says, everyone please rise for the national anthem. So I stand up and I look across at Dusty, who's standing up. Like, at first he's on his phone, so he's not paying attention. And then he hears the music and I see him. And he looks and he sees everybody standing up, so he just stands up. Looks at me and goes, and then, I don't know. That moment to me was just like, even Dusty thinks this is ridiculous. It's okay for us to think it's ridiculous.
Mark Henry is the world's strongest man, and that's not a gimmick. He would hit the world's strongest man on the Big Show, as well as the Great Khali. He would pull cars and trucks, and there's even clips of him dunking a basketball. That isn't a strong thing to do, but I'd say it's very impressive. As you can see, Henry's actually the world's strongest man, and the time that he actually broke a master lock is even more proof. This is him telling the story with Chris Van Vliet.
The feats of strength you did on WWE were incredible, like bending a frying pan, lifting a car. But how frustrated were you when that steel door wouldn't open for the cage, the steel cage?
No, it was a padlock on it. It wasn't a door. I mean, I could have jumped up and grabbed the door and just ripped the door off the hinges. They wanted me to pull the chain, break the chain. And I had committed to pulling on that chain to break that lock. Jim Ellis, I should kick you in the balls. But Ellis was busy. He had so much going on, he forgot to take a hacksaw and kind of saw the master lock. So master lock, Mark Henry broke your He didn't score it. So he didn't weaken it enough so I could just, pop it. So when I started pulling on it, it wouldn't go. That's why it took so long. It was like, I had to go back and look, but it was supposed to be like instantaneous, ping, do it and go. Like 3 or 4 minutes, maybe longer. It took for me to, I really broke it.
Yeah, and you're kicking the door like you look pissed off.
I was. That's probably the greatest feat of strength you ever see in wrestling.
Wow.
Like I could never do that again. My hands hurt for like 2 weeks.
This is CM Punk telling a serious story, but in a funny way, with him and Kofi getting in trouble with some cops.
Kofi and I, because Kofi's my road wife, we've been traveling together since he debuted. I don't know why. I literally went, the day he showed up to TV, I was like, you, in the car, you're riding with me. And he was like, okay. Me and him, it never fails. It's obviously it's changed because I got a bus now, thankfully. But him and I think this has been detailed before, so hopefully this isn't boring for you. Him and I constantly get pulled over and always harassed because of how I look, and I'm with an African-American gentleman with dreadlocks. And you cannot tell that cop that there is no weed in the car. He thinks he has hit the mother lode. And there was one time it got really bad. We were like in Missouri and we were driving, but we had rented the car in one of the neighboring states. Okay, so we have an out-of-state car driving through Missouri. I have a Chicago driver's license, Illinois state driver's license. Kofi has a Tampa, Florida state driver's license. He is black. He has dreadlocks, and I am covered in tattoos, and I look like I know how to make some pretty good meth. So the cops, from the time we got pulled over, we were literally, I think it was about 3.5 hours, and we still had another 3 to drive. The cops pulled us over. Cops asking me all kinds of questions. I know where this is headed. It's happened to me a dozen times. The cop says, "Coffee, you mind stepping out of the car?" And I like a deer darts in front of the car, and you do like the human seatbelt thing. And I said, "Kofi, you do not have to get out of the car." Kofi's a little bit naive. I have a little bit more, city miles on myself, as I like to say. And Kofi's like, "What's the big deal?" And I was like, Kofi gets out of the car. I watch in the rearview mirror as the man immediately starts cuffing Kofi. Kofi's looking at me like, "You shouldn't have got out of the car." So now other squads are pulling up, and it's ridiculous. I think 4 other squad cars, 2 state troopers. So now we have 6 cop cars on the side of the road, and now they're all trying to get me out of the car. Just come out of the car. I just don't want to talk to you out here. I can hear you fine. In here, they're your buddy's out of the car. We're gonna take him in. If you don't, this is horrible. Like, I know where this is going. For the last time, do you want to tell us, is there anything in the car? I was like, "Dude, there's nothing in the car." "Well, can we search it?" "I would rather you didn't. We have places to be. Like, this is turning ridiculous." So of course I get out of the car, they start cuffing me. I've been in trouble a few times in my life, though Kofi hasn't. So as they're trying to maneuver me around the car, I'm like, "No, I'm going to stand right in front of the camera, where the camera's at." I'm like, I know things, and these are all like, borderline like hick yokel cops. We're in Missouri, for Christ's sake. They put Kofi in one squad car. They finally get me in another squad car, and we watch as they dismantle our rental car. To the point where they're putting rubber gloves on, and they're going through jugs of protein and just spilling it out on the highway and everything. And I'm in a cop car by myself. I start to get nervous because there's now 2 canine cars. So there's 8 squad cars, right? For us 2 phony pro wrestlers. I know, it's a strange world. And I'm getting nervous now because all it takes is one of these cops to just plant something ridiculous, Right. And it sounds crazy, but trust me, it does happen. Yeah. And I just pictured them, okay, we haven't found anything. How do we explain 8 squad cars, and not finding anything? We're going to get in trouble, and if I have to do all this paperwork, I'm going to have a bust. So I'm sitting there thinking, this is going to suck because I have to fight 8 cops and 2 German shepherds and possibly Kofi. So they come back around and they're like, "We're going to ask you one more time, is there anything in the car?" And that's when I had it. I was like, "Let me out of the car. Let me out of the car." They let me out of the car. I walked back in front of the camera, and if you thought the promo I cut on Raw in July in Vegas was bad, I let these guys have it. And Kofi was just like, "Sir, let's just go." But it happens to us a lot. Like, that's just one story, and it's certainly not isolated. It happens frequently.
These are some funny Ric Flair stories told by Hulk Hogan.
Flair, did you behave at all? Dude, the guy, I'm going to just go out on a limb and say the guy's got some issues.
You think?
Yeah. I mean, he'd drink his own blood if you told him it had gin in it, I think.
Yeah. 30 years. I never saw him take a drink of water.
Yeah.
Brother, breakfast, hard liquor, vitamins, hard liquor.
Yeah.
Lunch, a couple beers, hard liquor at night, wine. I love him to death.
Oh, yeah, but
I never saw him drink any water until recently. I think he's back off the water, back on the roll again.
Yeah, he said he's back. Yeah, he said he did 30 days sober and then walked across the street to a bar and turned in his chip.
Yeah.
For a
That's
drink.
right. The funny part is
that's who he is.
Yeah, he's the man. The funny part is when he had that really serious health issue.
Yeah.
I got a call from Wendy and it didn't look good. So I flew up, got a plane right away, flew up to Atlanta. And I walked in, the doctor pulled me aside. He goes, "Hey, your buddy here has destroyed his body, the inside of some of his intestines and stuff were dying and stuff." He goes, "He's got a 5% chance of making it through the surgery." So he goes in, we wait. Jimmy Hart was with me. We waited. He comes out. He's still alive. His girl's crying. His daughter Ashley's crying. I'm sitting there holding his hand. 5% chance to make it. He opens his eyes. He looks up at me. He goes, "Hogan, get me a 6-pack." I went, "What?
First thing he said to me, get me a 6-pack when he woke up. You know?
Yeah, I'm not shocked, man.
I don't know. I was just tripping, man. It just kind of blew my mind, you know. He usually sneaks off on you, though.
Really? Oh, I could see
You'll
that.
be drinking at the bar, and you'll think he's going to the bathroom. You don't come back.
Yeah.
And there's usually this huge tab that he leaves. So he's got it down, brother. Believe me, I know.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
it's a short
hilarious.
story, Flair story.
Yeah.
I booked this Hulkamania tour. First time I've ever booked a tour on my own overseas, right? Australia. So I hire Flair and I hire a bunch of wrestlers to come with me. Flair goes, hey, I need my money up front. Okay, Rick, sure. You
Probably for one of his wives, I bet.
He brought one of them with him.
Yeah.
Actually, he divorced her right after.
He's always got a wife on him somewhere.
Yeah. And so I paid him up front. And all of a sudden, we're getting ready to go to Australia. Oh, my back, goes out again. And now the tour's booked. I'm following Britney Spears around. I'm a day behind her tour, picking up leftovers, I thought. And so my back went on. I had to have another back surgery right before I left. And I had stitches in my back when I went over there. Still, that's how crazy I used to be. You need.
Yeah, when you travel with
lay-
stitches, you should chill.
You need to lay in bed about 6 months after back
you're like,
surgery.
fuck
I was
that.
gone. Let's go. We're
Wednesday,
rocking.
we're out of here.
Yeah, so I told Flair, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So we get over there, and the greatest thing was the first night in Sydney, Australia, Britney Spears got mad and shot the crowd a bird, right? So nobody came to her tours, right? The rest of the tour. So we bounced around and picked everybody up, And I wrestled Flair a bunch over there. And every night he'd come to me, he goes, hey, I need another $5,000 tonight. Well, what? I already paid you. He goes, oh, no, I need another $5,000. I said, okay, well, here's $5,000. And then he kept doing it. I said, Rick, why am I giving you $5,000? Well, we're drawing such big crowds. You need to pay me another $5,000. So I paid another $5,000. I went down to the bar. He's buying drinks for everybody. I mean, paying for everything. That's what he's doing with the $5,000. Yeah. He's keeping everybody in the bar to party with him all night,
And the last story comes from Selena Vega and the biggest mistake she ever made.
I should say this before I even continue. I was gonna say, have you ever accidentally walked into a happy ending place?
No.
I will say
Have you?
Yes.
Yeah. What the heck? Wait, how do you accidentally walk into a place like this?
Because it was my first time in Japan, and I.
Oh, this was in Japan.
Yeah.
Not America.
Here, I would know. I'd be like, why is there a bra hanging from the door?
What's that sound? What do I hear?
My dumbass looked on my phone.
Yeah.
I was like, because, I would want to have, massages and stuff after these matches.
Yes.
Let me just look on my phone. So I just typed it. I thought that you could just do that because you could just do it in the States.
Oh, no.
And they kept offering me extras. I was like, no.
Extra what?
They were just, I didn't
They're trying
really
to upsell
understand.
you the massage?
Yeah, but I didn't really know what any of it meant. I was like,
just a regular one, please.
Yeah, I was like, no, just that. That's it. And she's like, maybe 2. I said, 2 what? 2
I'm
what?
sorry, what is she talking about?
I think she meant 2 people.
Oh, like a couples one.
Like, no, 2
Oh,
people.
2 people. Whoa, hey, whoa.
Yeah, so I was like,
whoa.
I don't need all that. If it's gonna be and
Oh
then
my
there was like a
God.
grandma that opened the door. So I was like, is it the second person? Like, what are we doing?
What's she gonna do?
Right. So I was like, no, just one, the kind of and I was like, I feel like this is a bad situation. The second, when I kid you not,
Oh my God.
the second that I'm laying there and I'm waiting, I was like, okay, because the match, blah, blah, blah. The second I felt the hand go down, 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 down.
Wait. I thought you were gonna stop before you even get to that point. Are you looking at the person getting this done, or is this you?
No, this is me now.
You actually went to the point of them putting hands on you.
Yeah, because I just
my
thought,
God.
okay.
I thought you
this
said you were gonna look
person-
at the person getting it done and be like, whoa, that's not what I want. I'm out.
Oh no, I felt like I messed up. I was just
you were like, oh, this is that kind of place.
But then the second that happened, I was just like, oh, and I grabbed my phone because they have you put all your stuff in a little basket or whatever. I was like, oh, emergency, I gotta go.
And the last funny story for this video is The Undertaker on the Joe Rogan Experience. In this clip, he talks about how he got scammed a couple $1,000s when he was trying to train to become a wrestler before he ever became one. While he didn't learn how to wrestle from this guy, he will get something even better for his money.
So we find this guy by the name of Buzz Sawyer to train us, right? And I got to come up with $2,000, and I ain't got a pot or a window to throw it out of, right? So I get my oldest brother, to co-sign a loan, hawk everything I own, and come up with $2,000 to pay Buzz Sawyer to train me to wrestle. Show up to his house, first morning of training, right? And, Buzz was a good amateur, really good amateur, and show up at his house, knocking on the door, There's about 10 of us standing out in the front yard, knocking on the door. Finally, the door swings open. What the you want, right? And he's standing there butt ass naked. Woke him up out of a dead. He's just standing there naked, and everybody's like, "We're here to train." And he goes, "Oh, is that today?" Yeah, and so he gets another guy that was staying there with him. His name was Perry Jackson, who I'm friends with to this day. He says, "Go out there and warm them up," right? So he goes out there and we run and do everything they can do to blow us up and run us off, right? Totally gassed out, about 2 hours, just nothing but cardio, right? Finally, Buzz comes out. All right, everybody line up. All right, everybody get down. Amateur position, right? So, everybody gets down. Fucking, he just stretches the shit out of everybody, right? Like cross-faced, just fucking, chicken wing, and just hooking everybody and rolling them around in his front yard, right? And that was it, right? Then he goes in the house. So y'all come back, a couple other days. So this goes on for weeks. And like every time I show up, there's like one less guy that shows up. They just like, until I was the last one there. So I'm the last one there. I knock on the door. Fuck. He never answers, right? So I start peering in the windows. Fucking all the furniture's gone. Everything's gone. He's gone. He's gone to a different territory to work. He just left, right? Never learned any pro wrestling.
He was just teaching you wrestling.
He was just teaching me. Yeah, obviously we signed up for pro, to teach us how to pro wrestle. But he just came out there, and his whole goal, and this is the way it was back then, is they always try to take your money, and then they try to run you off. Most of those guys in that era were all shooters. They were all good amateurs.
Right.
And that was what they would do. They would take your money, then they'd hurt you, twist you, try and get you to quit. And they got your money, and they didn't have to worry about it.
Those days you spent rolling around on the grass in front of that dude's house with his face cranking you.
I do. I think about that often. I was like, dodging piles of dog. Yeah.
Did you ever find the guy, your original coach that just moved out?
Oh, that guy's dead.
Yeah, he is dead.
Yeah,
he's dead. I ran into him a few years later. I got in the business, and I left a really key point out of that story, what I did. So I showed up at his house that day, right? And
all the shit's gone.
All his furniture, he'd moved on to another territory. But I guess he had to leave so fast that he couldn't take his dogs. He had 2 beautiful Rottweilers.
He left his dogs? He just left them?
Just left them.
Oh my God.
They got good homes.
Well, you took them.
I took them.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. I was like,
I mean, imagine if you didn't take them. What the is he gonna do?
Look, I have no idea. Oh, I would think he would have came back or had somebody come back for him, but I was like, fuck, I'm out $2,000. I hadn't learned anything but some amateur wrestling. I was like, fuck that. I'm taking these dogs. I couldn't eat myself. I didn't have enough food, money to feed myself. I didn't know I was going to feed some dogs, but I knew I was getting something out of this. I got the shit kicked out of me for 6 weeks. I'm getting something out of this. Yeah. And I ran into him, it was a few years later for a different company. And we're sitting across and he had no clue. He had no clue who it was. And we're sitting across the dressing room. And I'm just staring at him, right? And he's like, and he was, like I said, Buzz was a tough guy. He was, a good amateur. And he said, why are you staring at me? I said, you don't know who I am, do you? He goes, should I? I was like, yeah, you probably should. You took $2,000 of my money. You should probably know who I am. Yeah, and he's kind of squinting at me like, well, what do you want to do? So, I don't need to do anything. I got my money. So how do you have your dogs? It's like, you took my dogs? Like, yeah, I took your fucking dogs. You fucking left me. It's like, well, what do you want to do? I'm good, man. I'm all good. At that point, I'm still a fucking greenhorn, right? He's a veteran. And I'm like, fuck. You know, I'd have probably got my ass kicked. You know, he'd probably took me down and, you know, put me out. But I'm thinking like, But there, you know, there's always like, you know, here I am trying to get my foot in the door, and you know, do I fight this guy and get fired right out of the get-go?
Right.
And I remember one night I had a chance, and I don't know, sometimes I think about it, I should have took it. I was looking out my hotel window, and this hotel, there was a Waffle House. And I was looking out my window, and I could see in the Waffle, I could see him, and he was by himself, and he was all f***ed up. He was all pilled up. You know, you could tell, you know, he's bobbing. I'm thinking, I could go hide behind a car right now and just tee off on him. No one would care, and no one would know. So I'm having this battle with myself. It's like 3 a.m. like, no, don't do it.
Good do it.
Yeah, I didn't do it because
That's how people die.
Yeah, it's how people really, you know. And there would have been me on camera somewhere, and
he owed me $2,000, but I did get his dogs, and now he's dead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, everything worked out all right, I guess.